we sparked one up on New Year's Eve. We filled up that hole.
Oh, the actual real
oh my God.
rolling paper that came with Big Bamboo?
That was the first time I really went out.
We're live right now, so we'll just let everybody know we're talking about Cheech and Chong's album, Big Bamboo, that actually came with a real rolling paper.
Yeah, huge. Just across I think it was across the double album.
Dude, you have a flip phone.
Respect. I do.
You stepped out.
OTG, brother.
Yeah, you figured it out.
Create less data.
Yeah.
That's my motto.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, two things. One, your phone is always fucking with you. It's notifying, and and I just didn't want to be a part of that anymore. I wanted to be a little more connected to life outside.
You can still call people.
This is actually a new flip phone from T-Mobile Alcatel, and it has KaiOS, which is it's not really a trackable OS, although Google put an investment
you're
into
serious about this?
Oh, I'm very serious about it.
Okay,
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah. And so all the apps are they're all tracking you. They're all doing all kinds of shit. But initially, really, just to not be a slave to this thing.
Yeah.
And the further I got into it, the more I liked it. And you don't really need it. Now, I have a device with me that's off. This works as a hotspot, so I can turn it into a hotspot if I really, really, really needed to do something. But what do you need?
Right.
Text, phone call.
Right.
And if there's something that I really need to look up, you just turn around and say, hey, can someone Google this for me? And they do it. There's always someone around.
Are you texting on that thing?
Yeah.
Do you T9? Is that what you're doing?
They have it's like a T9. It's a little bit better. It's their version of predictive texting. It's I really am serious about it.
Well, you should be.
Yeah, everyone should be.
Yeah.
We have all this cool shit, all this great technology, but the business model fucked us all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 6 years ago, I had the first Amazon Echo. I'm like, this is groundbreaking. Dvorak, my co-host, he was laughing at me. He's like, why would you bring a spy device into your house? I said, look, I'm just testing this out. If it had an Apple logo on it, everyone would be losing their shit right now, but it didn't. And I loved it. Hooked it up to the lights, had all that stuff going. And then as I started to understand what it was really doing and what it's really communicating, all these things, right down to like your Roku remote, you pick that up, it's communicating with Homebase. Mm-hmm. So all this stuff, so I got rid of all of it. Just got rid of it.
I was listening to one of Sam Harris's podcasts, and he was talking with someone that said, and they had a really great quote, that we didn't realize that our data was something valuable.
Right.
We didn't realize it was a commodity, and it was being sold, not just a commodity that's kind of valuable, but insanely valuable.
Extremely, yeah.
Extremely. Where Facebook makes all their money. That's where Google makes all their money.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
They make it from your data, and you never really understood what you were doing when you signed off to give that data away.
Yep.
When you signed the terms of agreements, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And nobody reads through that shit.
You know what's even more egregious is there's a company called Plaid, Plaid,
yes.
and just sold to Visa for, I think, $4 or $5 billion. And it's the financial back end, or kind of like a bridge between all these apps that can do stuff with your bank account and your bank account. So if you have an app like Venmo or name any payment
Cash app.
I didn't want to disparage anyone who might be advertising on your show.
It doesn't matter. It's okay.
Cash app too.
PayPal.
Does
PayPal do it?
PayPal has their own system, but what you do is you sign up and you literally give this app your username and log into your bank account. Instead of an API or some kind of programming interface, just lets the app talk to your bank account and put money in, take it out. It can do anything. In fact, it is just like screen scraping. It can go through anything that's connected to your bank account. It can look at, and they do. And Credit Karma, another great example of it. And they are just sucking out all of your information. When you pay your bills, who you pay first, why, if you have, what your pattern is of credit card payment, moving stuff around. So you think you're just using it as a utility, but they're tracking your fucking life.
Dude, you're really concerned about this.
Well, everybody will get the world they deserve,
Yeah.
So I'm trying to protect myself and people I love. Also, the drone can't target me that easily with this, so I'm protecting you, Joe.
Thank you. It seems somewhat inevitable, right, that this connection that we have to technology gets deeper and deeper into our lives. But what disturbs me is that there are these giant corporations that are not just profiting off of our connection, but then they're using that money and that influence to affect a lot of things in our culture.
Well, they're enslaving you.
Yeah.
So Credit Karma is a great example, which also just sold for $7 billion. It was literally changing your behavior to get a higher credit score. And this credit score isn't really even an official credit score. It's the one that they kind of made up. So they'll say, pay your utilities on time. Then we'll raise your credit score. Your credit score is higher. Now we can lend you this money. You see, so they're training people to do certain things like the Progressive app for insurance. It's training you to drive in a quote-unquote responsible manner because you get discounts if you don't brake too hard, if you're not accelerating, if you're not breaking speed limits, etc.
Is it hooked up to the GPS? So it knows,
Oh, yeah.
So it knows your speeds and everything. It's monitoring it?
Everything. Your braking velocity, all of that
God.
shit. Oh, yeah.
So they take that into consideration every month when
That's the whole point. The point is to train the user to be a good, fiscally good person,
and you'll
whatever
do
that
that
means.
just because you want to save some money.
Well, of course, everyone does that, and you're going to be forced into it. Like I just got health insurance, new health insurance, and download the app, and if you download the app, we'll give you a break. Why? Because they're going to tell me to do things. This app is saying, now it's small things, but it'll start telling you stand up, move around, and if you follow it, then you'll get a discount. So we're really, really becoming enslaved that way.
That is definitely a way to look at it.
That's the business model.
Yeah, and it gets more and more immersive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know the Progressives app does that. That's
all of them do, Joe. All of them
the
do.
insurance company apps.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, that would be the best way to figure out if you're actually a good driver or if you're just some dickhead who gets lucky. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the marketing. It's like, if you're a good guy, don't worry about it. But they keep pushing. They'll just keep telling you. And you don't have to have the app active for that to be tracked or monitored.
That was one of the grossest arguments I heard after the whole Snowden thing. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you care if you're not breaking the law?
That's changing a little bit. I have a 29-year-old daughter, and she definitely had that mindset, and her friends did. But it's changing. Now it's like, okay, we totally get it. They're tracking all of our shit. So might not use this, or we'll leave the phone at home. There's a little bit of that creeping in. But in general, it's like crack. How can you do with it? It's not easy. This phone, it's sometimes like, I could, but no. It's like, and I just have to stand back and go, do I really need to have this information right at this very moment? Do I really need to do this?
No.
And typically, no.
When I feel any sort of anxiety or boredom, I just grab the phone. It's just instantly my little soothing blanket or my little teething thing.
Absolutely.
It's my little binky.
And I play a game with myself. I'll give myself points as I'm driving around. It's like person walking on the street holding the phone in their hand, 1 point. You don't need to actually hold the phone in your hand. And women, holy crap, they got two phones sometimes with little button plug so it doesn't fall off. They got their bag, maybe they got their kid or a stroller, and so bam, bam, bam. They're doing all, and they're all over the place all the time. So it's 1 point for just holding it. 2 if you're walking and doing something. I see a lot of that.
How many points if you have a kid and you're walking and looking at your phone? That seems like that'd be a bonus point.
If you're in the car, 10 points. If you're walking with your kid on the phone, it's 5 points. And you can hit 100 within 5 minutes. It's crazy. It's zombies.
Yeah.
When you start to really pay attention to it.
When you're above people, I have a truck, and when I look down from my truck, you can see people texting. And it's stunning how many people are on the highway texting at the same time.
I got rear-ended with my truck, say, maybe 2 months ago in Austin, right after a stoplight, and I was in the left-hand lane. I was going to turn left. Bam! Full speed. It was maybe 30, 35 miles an hour. The girl's airbags deployed. She's like, I'm like, and I was in the truck. I'm like, yeah, check, everyone okay? Yeah, I get out. And the whole front end is destroyed. She's dazed. I'm like, so I'm trying to pry the door open. Ugh. And there I see the phone on the floor, still open. Yeah. And then her excuse was, well, my brake didn't work. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Mom, my brake didn't work. Has that ever happened?
My brakes didn't work.
I got rear-ended the same thing. There was a slowdown on the right lane, and some guy plowed right into me.
And I asked the cops. I said, oh, this is five times a day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird that sort of snuck up on us. That there's this thing that's incredibly addictive. I was with my family this past weekend in Dallas, and we were at this event. As we're walking through this crowd, I'm like, look how many people are on their phones. This is crazy. Like everyone. It was just you're going through the crowd of the store, and everyone is just looking at their phone. It's like a zombie movie. They don't know they're zombies yet.
Truly is a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
In the weirdest way. I mean, it gives you a little bit of reward. Every now and then someone has a funny meme and you're like, ha, ha, ha.
Well, that's what Silicon Valley figured out, is that the Pavlovian response and all the brain impulses you get from a like or a retweet or whatever it is, or even just something just blip. Oh, ooh, and we have different sounds, bling, blong, whoop, all this stuff.
Before we go any further, we should give you credit. You're the reason why all this started. You are the original podfather, the legitimate one. Like there's a lot of people claiming that.
Yeah.
You're the guy who made the very first podcast. You even came up with the name of it, right?
No, I didn't come up with the name.
Who came up with the name of it?
Well, let me go back to the beginning, because actually the technology of podcasting was invented in 2000. So before anyone was podcasting, before there was an iPod, interestingly. I was living in Amsterdam at the time, and I was working with Dave Weiner, who really invented blogging, and he had created this RSS syndication format. And he had software where you could blog, and then an aggregator, kind of like Google Reader at the time, and you could read blogs. It was kind of like a two-way communication thing. It was interesting, and a lot of people were starting to use it. And in Amsterdam, they had cable modems rolled out everywhere. And cable modems was sold at the time as always on internet. It wasn't fast. It was just fucking on. You didn't have to dial in, which was, oh my God, this is great. This was a huge improvement. You didn't have to kick someone off the phone line, all of that.
Yeah.
So the experience of multimedia was shit. Like, you wanted to hear a song or play a video, it was like click, wait, download, wait. It would probably download and then open up some kind of player, and then it was not an experience. There was nothing there that made sense. So, and I always wanted to broadcast on the internet. That's always been my thing from the moment I saw it. So I came up with this concept of the last yard. So what if you had a little thing running on your computer in the background that would know if there's something you wanted? Let's just forget the how it knows part. It would download it, and it would tell you that there was something new when it already had it on its local hard drive. So you remove the whole wait experience, because you don't know. You don't know that this computer has been downloading something you've wanted. It just tells you, oh, it's here, which is, it's not abnormal in media. The 6 o'clock news, most of it's produced before the actual broadcast. So I took this idea to Dave, and I said, we need to come up with something that can download a media file that I program somehow, like this is going to show up, and then it downloads it and only tells me when it's there, and I can click on it and it plays immediately. And it took some convincing. He didn't exactly understand what I was saying. He probably thought, fucking MTV guy, get the fuck out of here. In fact, that's exactly what he thought. And then I actually demonstrated to him what I wanted to do in his own software. And he said, okay, I'm going to do this, but only on the condition you never, ever, ever fucking use my software again, because that was horrible what you just did. And so he created the enclosure element in RSS. And so for 2 years, we were doing back and forth, like movie files and stuff, and click, and it would open up, and the experience was good, until I saw my first iPod. A friend of mine said, oh, look at this. I'm like, oh, this is the white one with the big click, the big wheel on it. That was a good one, right? They got hot after a while, like big hard drive. And I looked at it and went, this is not a digital Walkman. This is a fucking radio receiver. Because I had one. I had a Sony AM radio receiver, which is little solid state thing. I'm like, this is a radio. This can receive radio programming. And so I set about, again with my fantastic programming skills, to make a little application. And the iPod at the time, you still had to sync it to iTunes. That's how you got music onto it back in the day. And so you could put an MP3 file into a blog post, basically, but it was a special attachment, really. And so this program would just be looking all the time, is there something new? Is there something new? Oh, there's something new. Download it. Then trip it so that it's synchronized to the iPod. And it worked. Now, not being a programmer, Actually, Kevin Marks, the guy who was working at Apple, sent me a version of the script that actually worked. That was helpful. And I set about creating a radio show, which we didn't have the name podcast yet. And I wanted to be able to talk to developers, software developers, who could create receivers. So we had iPodder, iPodder X, iPodder Lemon, all these different applications which kind of did the same thing. And because I was talking to developers, I called it the daily source code. So I did every day, and source code is kind of what the developers work in. And I was really talking to them, like, okay, well, the guys over in New Zealand, they've created this version of the app and it's really working well. And we discovered all kinds of crazy shit, like you subscribe to a feed because no one had thought it through. It would try and download, everything you had in that feed all at once. So I was trying to download 50 episodes, and we still had kind of always on internet. So everything would crunch and die. And this just kept building and building, and other people started doing these, and we called them soliloquies and little bundles of joy and all kinds of really dumb names. And the Danny Gregoire, a guy who was just listening, he said, "Oh, this is a podcast," and the name stuck. Now, Ben Hammersley from The Guardian years earlier had actually used the term podcast somewhere in an article, which there was no podcasting at the time, but he envisioned that and called it podcast. So,
oh wow! So he's the guy. So he's the guy who named it.
He used the term, but I would say Danny Gregoire really named what we were doing at the time. So, and that's when I didn't name myself the Podfather, but people started calling me that. And it just grew from there, and that went really fast. Before I knew it, the BBC was calling, and the interviews here and there. I'm like, holy shit, something's blowing up here. Yeah. And it wasn't until the big moment was I got a call from Steve Jobs. And he says, actually it was Eddie Q, who's a big man on campus there now. He says, can you meet with Steve? I'm like, let me check my calendar. Fuck yeah. So it was in, where's the D3 conference? Like San Diego, I think. Went there, and I met with him for an hour. And it was, wow. And I've met a lot of interesting people.
He's a busy dude.
My best meeting to date had been Quincy Jones, where I got drunk with him for an hour on a live radio show. Oh yeah, that was fantastic. And so here's Steve Jobs in the flesh. Now the first thing I notice is he's got a weird lisp that I'd not really heard before.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like, well, okay.
So he hides it when he does those?
Maybe when he's projecting, but he was much more personable. And it's just the two of us. But first he's mad, he's fucking pissed off, and he's yelling about, they fucked up Wi-Fi. And I learned later that his plan always for the iPhone was to not be a cell phone, but to use Wi-Fi networks around the world. And
whoa. Yeah,
and because Cisco or whoever had changed the way Wi-Fi works and the way the authentication works, that it really wouldn't be that seamless. But that was his vision. And, so I thought to myself, dude, you should probably calm down. This is going to make you sick. And then he was talking about, Eddie Q says, the RAA called and they got a problem with how we're able to, record sounds on the Mac, breaking any kind of encryption. And I said, that's actually kind of important because in order to record stuff, we're using like Audio Hijack Pro and all these different kinds of tools. And I said, Ma, I hope they don't do that because it's kind of important for production. And Steve went, fuck it, tell them to fuck themselves. This is tools our guys need. I'm like, okay. And then he said, Adam, I'd like to put podcasting in iTunes. Are you okay with that? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yes, I'll give you my directory. I built a directory of podcasts. I'll give you that to start it off. Absolutely. And then it was kind of funny. So then maybe...
What year was this?
2004, something like that, I think. Yeah, 2004, 2005 timeframe. And then Jamie, maybe you can find it if you want. It's a pretty funny video. So he announces this on stage playing my podcast where I just rail on the Mac. If you take a look, it's pretty funny. It's the one video that really legitimizes me in the world of podcasting. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, you got to check this out. This is hilarious.
Well, you could try to sell podcasts, but the whole phenomenon is so great it's free. Okay. And I think what we're going to see is an advertising-supported model emerge just like free radio. Here's another. Adam Curry is one of the guys that invented podcasting. And he has a podcast called The Daily Source. Let me go ahead and subscribe to that. And we can go listen to his latest one. Just click on it.
Your daily source code, show number 180.
Something remarkable is happening here. Radio is springing free of the regulated gatekeepers who've managed what you can hear since radio was invented. It's jumping into the hands of anyone at all with something or nothing to say.
With $16 million worth of airplane strapped to my ass, and the next generation radio content in my ears.
We don't need no stinking transmitter.
I like to think I'm flying into the future. Podcasting. It's Adam Curry.
That's right, it's show number 180, and it's Friday, everybody. Thank God. I've actually had to restart the show 3 times. My Mac has been acting up like a motherfucker. I don't know what's going on. I think it's something to do with the file system.
Okay.
He knew exactly what he was doing, bro. I'm telling you. He knew
did it on purpose?
exactly. Oh, yeah.
He had to.
Oh,
I'm sure
he
he
knew what
wouldn't
he was
play a
doing.
clip that he didn't know.
I love Kara Swisher with her mouth just like, oh, yeah, what's
That's
happening?
hilarious.
And then he sent me an email later, and he said, I'm going to introduce you to some people in venture capital, Kleiner Perkins, Sequoia Capital, which I kind of took as the thank you. And I went on to raise a lot of money from those companies to build my podcast network.
What was the first? What year was your first podcast? The first one that you released?
Well, so that was 2003, I guess.
2003. Wow. So what was going on before you? Was there anything? Was there any other?
Well, people have been putting. We had real video and real audio, if you remember.
That's right,
So that was kind of like the low grade streaming stuff, and but this really made. It did 2 things. I mean, it solved the bandwidth problem for downloading. That was the first, and now that's no longer an issue, of course. But it put the subscription model into place, and because neither I or Dave Weiner have ever patented any of this, it's completely free and open, so no one owns it, and that was the mission. I'm very proud of that.
That's beautiful.
Because otherwise, if someone Spotify is now trying to buy podcasting. By buying up all these networks, and they'll make it exclusive. And granted, they're trying to switch from a music company to an audio company, but ultimately, look at all the applications that are out there that are really good. People love them. The Apple podcast app. I use Overcast. I like that a lot. There's tons of different ones, and it's all because there's an open standard that no one can control. And Silicon Valley loves controlling shit. In fact, Apple loves controlling shit. This is one of the few things Apple has done that isn't a walled garden locked into Apple stuff.
It's interesting because they're not even monetizing it.
No, and they have many different ways they could do stuff or they could help, but I don't know why. I don't know why they're not.
I think it's an oversight. I think they thought for the longest time that it was just this thing that people did that was no big deal, and then it's become so enormous. But they still have this model that they're operating under. That they're just aggregating.
Could be. I mean, and what was interesting is when they started off, they immediately started to highlight NPR programming, which I'm grateful for. WGBH in Boston did a lot with putting their first programs, making those available as podcasts. But kind of the beauty of the amateurism of podcasting got pushed down a little bit, and it was all BBC, NPR,
Radio
PBS.
Lab. Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah.
It's a little too much for me, the Radio Lab.
I love Radio Lab, but I know what you're saying. It's very produced. It's very like people answer questions for the guest instead. Like they'll cut in. So what he said was this, and you're like, well, why don't you just let him say it?
Right. Well, so this is why you are the Tonight Show of our era. You have, and by the way, I feel like I'm playing the Super Bowl here. I mean, if you see my DMs and my text messages, people are like, holy Rogan, this is legendary. They're going nuts. And oh shit, like I'm got to prep for the Super Bowl. I've got to get ready to slam this. But you have taken you've really done the opposite. You've zigged to everyone's zag, and you just have a conversation, unedited. You're a completely open type of personality. So instead of trying to rush in and get the information, an example, I like Eliza Schlesinger. And she was going to be on Kimmel. I'm like, I'll stay up and watch that. She was second guest, which kind of sucks because you get first guest, and then a bit and all that. And There was literally, before she came on, it was 6 minutes of ads, then a native ad in the studio for D's Nuts, then another 5 minutes of ad. It was 12 minutes of commercials, and Schlesinger was on for 5 minutes. You know, blah, 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 blah. Not even a clip.
Yep.
So people are sick and tired of it. I mean,
Yeah.
the existing media, because of just the structure that's in place, the ratings game that probably isn't really reality, but it's an approved methodology. People believe in those numbers. That's still there, but there's a reason why you get Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders, and people want to come on your show because you speak to an entire generation. My daughter is like, holy shit, my friends are all telling me that you're going to be on Rogan. She never talks to me about any of that stuff. It's like, but you're on Rogan? Oh, okay, this is a little different.
That's hilarious.
So it's not like you don't know it. I mean,
It's weird. I do know, but it's weird.
Why do you say it's weird?
It's just weird. It's weird.
Well,
it was never there was no intention. Like starting it from the beginning was just fun. And then this is cool. And then once it got like a certain amount of people, there was a point in time where I started getting guests. So I was like, you want to do my podcast? And, certain cool people like Anthony Bourdain was one of the first ones.
Well, I remember in the beginning, and I've always wanted to be on your show. I think we've tweeted, maybe 7 years ago or something. You were in Austin. But I always felt like, dude's doing some kind of pirate radio out there. It's like, what is this shit? There's something cool going on there. You got all these people around you, and the comics or comedians. Which do you prefer?
Either one's fine. I don't think it matters.
Okay.
Some people are sticklers for it, and I always find them to be annoying.
So what I liked so much is that comedians gravitated toward it and said, okay, we can be funny and we can do stuff that isn't necessarily our jokes that are going to get ripped off. Because I think for the longest time, comedians would be like, I don't want to be on the internet. I'm not putting my shit out there because people will steal my jokes and they'll steal my whole routine. And if anything, you and comedians started to really blanket the landscape and show, what could be done with this. And the fact that everyone could just kind of, receive it on their phone was fantastic.
We kind of created a real organic network. That's one of the things that we all kind of talk about it. That networks, if you think of a network like NBC or whatever, you think of it's a controlled network with executives and shareholders, and then there's
advertisers.
Commercials. Yeah, there's all these different standards that you have to apply to. There's all and
agendas.
Right, exactly. But we're all on the network together. We're on Tuesday at 8, and these guys are on Thursday at 7, and then all this.
So
shit.
I made that same mistake, thinking that I could build a podcast network and run it kind of like a hybrid network record company. Mm-hmm. And raised a lot of money to do it too. First mistake is that the VC guys, they wanted us to be in San Francisco. Who the fuck builds a media company in San Francisco? But okay. It just doesn't work for a number of reasons, but the main one is the advertising model is just not built for this. An advertiser wants to know, and I'm talking real advertisers. I'm not talking, underwear and mattresses and Squarespace. We're talking automotive, pharmaceutical, telecom. These are that's where the real money is. Mm-hmm. They want to know exactly what they're going to be advertised on, and if they don't know what it is, they want no part of it. Especially now, as we have cancel culture through social networking, they want no part of it. So it's just not going to be spectacular. The way you understand, now you're not going to take those advertisers away.
What I meant by network is not that, though.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Is like I tried to build the contained network, failed. In my mind, people made money and everything. The investors didn't make money, but everyone else made money.
A lot of people have tried to do that. All things
they're
comedy,
still trying it. They're still trying it.
It's just it's not that profitable, and it's also the ones that are successful, and the other ones aren't. And like the idea that they're all sharing revenue, it's like, okay, you kind of eat what you kill.
So what you're trying to say here about the ad hoc network is totally the way to go.
What I'm saying is we didn't even think about it. We just were supporting each other. And comedians always suffered from famine syndrome. Because there was only a few shows on television, and we were all trying to be on a sitcom, or you were all trying to be the host of a late night show, and there was only a handful of those.
Right, I'm sure everyone wanted to be that.
So that famine mentality was like, it created a lot of weird animosity and competition between comedians. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the line, the internet came along, and then YouTube videos started making people famous, and then podcasts started making people famous, and then we all realized like, the old model of like, hey, if you do Leno, you can't do Letterman. Like there was a lot of that nonsense back then.
Of course.
That shit's out the window. Now everybody does everybody's show. Like Bill Burr does mine, I do his, we all do each other. I'll do Joey Diaz, he'll do mine. We're all friends.
And what happens is I hear Bill Burr on your show, and I'm like, oh fuck, he's got a podcast. You know, Monday morning podcast. Boom, subscribe.
Exactly.
You know, Joey Diaz, not necessarily my kind of guy, but fuck it, he's off the hook. His own podcast is kind of fun. So you are in a way kind of like a mothership.
The rising tide lifts all boats. That's how we think about it.
How capitalist of you.
Yeah, but it's not even that way. It's just like everybody gets to do well. It's not that, you know, we're thinking of it in terms of an industry at all. It's really just fun. It just happens to be profitable. But the way we started it out with no thought whatsoever of it ever being profitable, that's why it became what it is. Because it was all like doing giant bong hits and hitting all this vaporizer and literally not even knowing what you're talking about while you're talking half the time and having fun with a bunch of silly people.
Was part of the appeal because it's everybody wants to be at the party.
Yeah.
That's why radio stations do remote broadcasts. You know, that's why top 40 stations go to Popeyes.
Yeah.
And hey, we're here this morning, everybody.
Right.
Everyone wants to be part of it.
Yes,
If you're actually partying,
yeah.
I mean, that's what people love, of course.
Yeah, we do these podcasts called Fight Companions, and then they're some of our most popular ever.
Yeah.
And we'll watch fights and drink and smoke weed while the fights are going on, and they're madness. They become total chaos.
Yes.
And those are some of the most popular podcasts
Shout out to Ryan, my dance instructor, who's a huge fan.
You're a dancer? What kind of dance are you doing?
My wife and I, we're
What
dancing.
Are you doing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's part of my workout regimen.
It is a workout.
It's huge
man.
workout.
It's a real workout.
Oh yeah.
It's a lesson in body coordination and awareness.
I mean, we'll do a double lesson. This has always been my dream, and you know, so finally I found a woman who. It's really. Do you dance at all? Have you ever danced ballroom dance?
No, but I did have to take dance lessons for this movie Zookeeper that I did a few years back.
Oh, it was with the Kevin James.
Yeah, they had a whole dance scene where it was like weeks.
I like that movie.
Me and Leslie Bibb had this thing on the floor. It was fun.
So it is. The man leads the woman. It is a very traditional role in dancing, you know, or if you have two women dancing, one of them has to be the lead. But in this case, and the woman has to give into it. And it is for both of us, we find it, you know, just for being together and I'm leading, she's following. It's a total trust thing. There's all this interaction that you have, which is almost frowned upon in today's society. You know, what the man is actually, even me saying this,
that you're leading.
Oh, you're leading. I'm leading. It's, you know, it's called leading. But when we do an hour and a half, like a double lesson, I'm sweating. Like I'm in all your muscles, everything. And just look at them on Dancing with the Stars. These fuckers are cut.
It's hard. You know, I talked to Chuck Liddell, who was the UFC light heavyweight champion. And he told me that Dancing with the Stars was one of the hardest things he ever did. Just preparing for it.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's hard. Dancing's real.
Joe Rogan says dancing's real.
It's real.
It's a bumper sticker.
It's a real.
It is real.
It's a difficult thing to do.
And the cool thing is you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
So you know.
True.
So we want to get to we've only just started a couple months, but we want to get to the part where we can just go into a place and just dance.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm a big believer in learning things and taking lessons and just something you suck at, just try it.
So I got my ham radio license. So I'm academically I'm a piece of shit. I mean, I barely made it through high school. I dropped out of college in 2 months. Like, this is not for me. This is not
like
for me. I learned how to fly helicopters and airplanes. So I've gotten all these things, and not that I really fly that much anymore.
Bird does helicopters.
I know. I heard that.
He flew me around downtown LA.
Yeah, and is Robbie 44 or 22?
He doesn't have his own. He was using one of the ones at this helicopter company.
Right. But was it 4-seater or 2-seater?
It was a 4-seater.
Okay, Robinson 44.
Yeah.
That's what I trained in. I
him.
owned 2 helicopters.
Really?
I had a helicopter company.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In Texas, you could shoot pigs out of them.
Yes, but
you ever seen those?
This was in the Netherlands. Yeah, no, believe me, I've been invited.
I'm sure. Yeah,
I've been invited. I don't like that idea. It seems
it's a very unfair idea, but also they have to do something. Like there's millions.
Well, the pigs are a problem. The pigs are a problem.
Yeah.
But it's just like, to me, it's like, ha ha, boom. Like,
exactly.
Nah, I'm not
the problem
into that.
is that's the problem, right?
I don't like that.
The problem is the joking around about it while death is happening. Yeah. It's a disturbing and very unwinnable situation because the feral hog problem is so big, particularly in Texas, that they lose millions of dollars in crops every year.
Yeah.
Like many
No, it's a real
ranchers do.
problem. It's just
Yeah.
I just can't get into the $300 an hour helicopter, just shooting out of it.
Yeah, out of the window. Yeah. It's a lot of food, though. It does make a lot of food. They donate the food to homeless
I have
people.
never shot a living thing. I have guns. I've shot a lot of guns.
Do you eat meat?
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Wild pigs are a good place to start.
there's a place that does oryx.
Okay.
And have you ever had
Sure.
oryx?
No, I have not.
Oh,
I heard it's
my
delicious.
God, it's
Yeah.
so good. They has a conservation in Texas, and there's actually more oryx in Texas than in Africa, I believe.
It's true, yeah.
Because they're really managing them. You can go there, you can hunt them, shoot them, and then they'll dress the whole thing for you if you want. You can do it yourself, and that part's not for me. I don't know. I just
understand.
don't think I can. If I had to, no problem. But
Right.
not,
I know.
not
you don't
just-
have to.
No.
Right. Yeah. No. I get it, man. I get it. It's not for everybody.
Have you ever shot something?
Yeah. Yeah. I hunt. Yeah.
Oh,
I
do bow
hunt.
and arrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a whole different level.
Yeah, it's
That's-
this is my first animal I ever shot. That deer, I shot it on a TV show called Meat Eater, and I got hooked right after because I was either going to become a vegetarian or I was going to become a hunter.
Right.
I'd seen too many of those PETA videos. And
You dress them. You do all that
I do
yourself.
everything. Yeah, I do
I got a
everything.
buddy who does that, Scott, in
Yeah.
in Austin.
When I go elk hunting, we'll dress it in the field and quarter it, but then I'll send it to a butcher to get it chopped up
Right.
in different
right.
cuts.
But yeah, no, I love meat. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. I think
It's
healthy.
I understand what you're saying. Like to pull the trigger and to be there when an animal dies. It's intense, but it also makes you realize what you're doing when you're eating meat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think just knowing this, I'm cognizant of it. I mean, I don't bless my food, but I think about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, thanks, man.
Well,
thanks, madam. Cow,
when I was
whatever.
in Utah last September and I shot this elk, not only do these guys pray for the elk, everyone takes their hat off, but they actually take a wad of grass that the elk eat and they make like a bundle of it and they put it down on the elk carcass when we're done cleaning the elk. So after the bare bones of the elk, after the meat's removed, they put this thing down. They take their hats off. It was pretty serious. Like
Right.
These guides, they do it with every elk that dies there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's it's part of their livelihood, but it's also they're majestic. They're
Oh,
fuck,
beautiful-
they're delicious.
It's beautiful animals.
And and they're so special. They're so interesting. Like if I could just eat elk for the rest of my life, I'd be happy doing that. And
Reindeer? Have you tried reindeer?
No, caribou. Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so reindeer in Finland,
thing.
I had some reindeer. They there's a restaurant, and then a buddy of mine worked at Nokia at the time, and they bring you a picture. This is him. Like, what? And he's alive. You're like, that was Rudolph, and then there he is.
So they
Serve
kill
it
them
up.
right before they serve it.
I
to
don't
you?
know that, but they,
Oh.
they do show you. This is the one you're eating right here.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's intense.
very
They want
tasty
you to
though. It's
feel it.
fantastic meat.
Yeah, it's caribou is a very prized meat. Yeah, and they're amazing animals too, and they have these huge herds of them. And
I went to the North Pole and I saw just tons of them up there.
do you know the whole story with them and psychedelics?
With caribou?
Yeah.
No, but I'm interested.
Okay. Caribou are connected to a mushroom called the Amanita muscaria mushroom. They're addicted to this mushroom. They eat it constantly. They've actually been known when people do psychedelic ceremonies and they go outside of their yurts to pee, caribou will knock them over to try to get to their urine because their urine is rich with the smell of this mushroom.
mushroom,
Yeah, they eat it constantly. Hence
It's a psychedelic mushroom?
the flying reindeer. It gets crazier. Ready? The connection between Santa Claus and reindeers is very strange. The connection between Santa Claus and this mushroom is also very strange. The mushroom looks like Santa Claus. It's red and white. It also shows up under pine trees. It has a mycorrhizal relationship with coniferous trees. So when it rains, the mushrooms will pop up under these trees. So these bright packages that look that's what they
Packages
look
under
like.
the tree.
Exactly. That is what they look like under trees.
Wait,
Boom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not only that, it
blowing
gets
my
crazier.
mind.
It gets crazier. To dry them off, the shamans would pick them and then put them in the pine. Put that photo up again for Adam.
Thanks, man.
Put them in the pine needles to dry them off. So just like balls
Right,
hanging
in
from
the
a
tree.
Christmas tree,
Right.
and
That's
ornaments in a Christmas tree.
well, we still put pine needles in the pine cones in the tree.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And balls, those bright colored balls. They think the origin of that was those things. Also, Santa Claus came down the Christmas tree and the chimney, when they were discouraging these shamanic rituals. people had to sneak into people's houses to perform them. And one of the ways they did that was to climb down through the chimney. So the shaman would drop down through the chimney with a bag of mushrooms, and then they would all have these ceremonies. And when these ceremonies were forbidden, that's how they got around it. Yeah, it's the relationship between Santa Claus and Christmas and this mushroom is very strange. And there's tons of articles. Also, almost all of the old Christmas cards had the Amanita muscaria mushroom on it. And elves, also the connection between elves and these mushrooms. I got to ask Dvorak about that.
He collects, he's an archivist. He collects old Christmas cards.
Oh, does he?
I'll bet you he has some of those.
Find old Christmas cards with mushrooms. There's thousands of them.
I've never done mushrooms.
What?
I've done DMT. Right no, thank you. I'll smoke weed, but and I did DMT and enjoyed it very, very much.
That's a wild one, huh?
I did it twice.
See, look at these old Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah.
Find some ones that show like look at that one right there in the middle. Yeah, there you go. See that one? Merry Christmas. Trip your balls off, kids. Hey, look, they all have mushrooms.
Oh, my God.
In the early 1900s, when they were making these, and even in the 1800s, people were just more connected to the origins of these stories.
Sure.
And over time, we've kind of lost that connection.
Oh, it commercialized it into all kinds of other shit.
But it's always the Amanita muscaria. If you look at these.
Yeah, the mushroom, of course.
It's always that one mushroom that looks like Santa Claus.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a weird mushroom, though. That was a complicated mushroom because it varies genetically and also varies geographically and also varies seasonally. I've done it before, but I never had a good reaction out of it. I did it with my friend Stanhope, and Doug and I did it, and we weren't feeling it. And then we had some other mushrooms, and we brought some psilocybin mushrooms. We threw them into the party, and then we took off.
I'm not into eating any drugs.
No?
I like smoking flower. That's about it.
Okay.
I grew up in Amsterdam. That made it kind of easy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's tricky, especially when you don't know what you're getting. You know, but mushrooms are pretty standard. Once you've done it a few times, you know what you're getting into. But that mushroom and Christmas, it's a very, and anyway, the caribou, which pulls Santa's reindeer, pull the sled, right? Well, they're flying because they're tripping their balls off. They're high as fuck.
Wow.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the reason why those reindeer are addicted to that mushroom. They favor it. They love it. Yeah. It's a weird one.
Story.
That mushroom also is a weird one in that when people take it, they trip, and then to really enhance their trip, they drink their urine, because apparently the in the urine contains, like, your body filters out.
You get an extra super blast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Weird stuff.
I'm trying to cut back on drinking my pee, though.
Yeah, it's a good
just
move.
a bit. Yeah.
It's unsightly. People catch you doing it. They give you the weird eye.
Yeah, it's socially so unacceptable. Just like, what the hell are you doing, Curry?
Yeah. But anyway, caribou. I've never had it, but I've heard it's delicious. I've had a bunch of different kinds of deer. Axis deer is probably the favorite. That's really delicious. That's another one. It's a weird deer because it's an invasive species in Texas.
Tell me, I got him in the backyard.
Oh, do you have axis deer in your backyard?
No, I got deer.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
just
I don't know.
Regular white-tailed deer?
I have no idea.
Do they have white spots all over their bodies and weird horns? Or does it look kind of like that? That's a mule deer. You probably don't have too many of those.
I don't know.
You probably have whitetails.
I don't know. They hiss.
They hiss? Oh, they wheeze at you.
Yeah. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's the girls usually. They're letting the men know that there's some danger here.
Yeah, they just walk right through the backyard, walk onto the street. They're all, we live in a cul-de-sac. They're all over the place.
Wow.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens when there's no predators. It becomes a real issue. People slam their cars into them. I have a buddy who lives in Iowa, and you can't even, when it's the rut, like in November, you can't even drive.
Yeah, you just are crossing the road everywhere.
Everywhere you go, and you better be going 20 miles an hour because they just dart out with a boner. They don't know what they're doing because the males lose their fucking marbles.
They're basically rodents, just kind of like, what the hell? Yeah.
They're not that wise.
So I don't feed them. Just go away.
Yeah, that's smart.
Just keep them going. Move on, people.
Yeah,
Nothing
but if you have like apples or something in your backyard, then it becomes a real problem.
Don't have any of that. No.
At least you guys don't have bears. That's when it really is a pain in the ass when people.
We got coyotes now, though.
Oh, I bet you do.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those walking through the yard.
Yeah.
And I have no pets, so.
We've lost pets.
I used to have so many pets. I had everything.
Yeah.
Oh, dogs, cats, goats.
Do you feel free
horses.
now without them?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's just you don't really realize it until you're closing the sliding door, you're opening it up, and you're not thinking, shit, You know,
Right.
is someone going to get out? You know,
Right.
that's very free.
That's a weird thing too. I always feel bad. The cats can't even go outside. Yeah,
Well,
but
they can't go outside in Texas.
they'll get eaten.
Yeah.
But it's just sad that they can't even go outside. Like, what the fuck kind of life is that? Just living in a little prison where you
like
get free
gerbils,
massages?
you know, in a cage. You
Yeah.
know, I don't like goldfish. I don't like any of that. Goats, though, I had a lot of goats. Those are mean fuckers.
Yeah, that's a
horses
different
too.
animal.
I had a thing. My daughter had horses, and I had a castle in Belgium, and we had 2 horses there.
You got a castle in Belgium?
Yeah,
Damn.
I used to have money. I spent
Is this
it.
the
spent it on-
MTV money?
No. I took my company public in '96 called Think New Ideas, and it was one of the first internet marketing advertising companies, and it was big. We had 400 people. It was a big company.
Oh, wow.
My buddy and I, we worked out and we took it public. And back then, it was like, this is before the real .com craze. So we raised $20 million. Like, holy shit, we couldn't believe it, which is nothing these days. And after all the lawyers and everyone had taken their money, there was $15 million left. And so we started to build the business. What were we talking about?
Castle. You have a castle in Belgium.
Yeah. So there was that. And then I'd also, at the time, someone had said, I did pretty well on the IPO, and not crazy, but okay. There was I learned what dilution means. I learned that pretty quick. But I'd invested $50,000 in some company, and then I'd in 2000, just before 2000, moved to Amsterdam, moved back to the Netherlands, and the bank called me, said, "You sitting down?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, "What's up?" I said, "You remember that company you invested in?" I said, "Yeah." It went public. It was Ask Jeeves.
Oh, wow.
And you now have $65 million. I'm like, oh yeah, on paper, Joe. So lock up, you couldn't sell any of it, all this stuff. So I did get some out, but basically wrote it down to wallpaper.
How come you can't sell it? I've never.
Well, if you're an
understood that.
insider,
right?
You lock up your shares. It's an SEC regulation, so you can't sell for. I think that it's negotiable, but it's so the other investors who come in. Won't be left holding the bag. So, you do the IPO and then all the insiders sell their shares, and everyone who just bought at the IPO, then all their shit goes down in value and they're screwed. So there's a lockup, typically 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. And through some back-ended way, I don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know how bankers do it with swapping stuff and promises and derivatives. They were able to get some money out for me that I spent on helicopters and castles and all kinds of fun stuff. I've enjoyed the money. Yeah,
well, that's good.
Definitely. Glad I got the podcasting thing left. So,
how'd you get back to Austin?
I had the company in San Francisco. This was a different company, the podcast company, and I was living in London at the time, so I lived there for 5 years.
Damn, you're an international traveler.
Oh, I've lived in a couple places, and was going back and forth, San Francisco, London, and there was a breakup between me and my wife, and we got divorced, and so I stayed in San Francisco, and then moved to California. To Los Angeles for it was about a year. I always wanted to live in LA. I lived in the hills over by Highland, and it just didn't work for me. I was doing basically the podcast, and that shows me like 12, 13 years ago, and I don't know. Maybe it was that area, but I really had nowhere else to go. And if I wanted to go somewhere, I'm just sitting in traffic all day. It's like if I wanted to go to the beach, no. I was with a woman at the time who was an actress. Never marry an actress, man. It's bad. I was warned. So she wanted to be in that general area, so it just wasn't working for me. And then I did a tour from Virginia down to Florida, the Gulf Coast, for the show with an RV, doing the show from the RV, meeting people, doing meetups. And it was just around the time when you had the BP oil spill in the Gulf, and so people were really depressed, and it was all messy, and was not a good vibe. And I was going to go straight up to Chicago, and a buddy of mine, Greg Lawley, who was one of the true last independent record promoters, who I'd known from San Francisco, and I knew him from Chicago back from the radio days, and he said, "Oh, Adam, come to Austin. You'll love it. Come to Austin. You stay at my place. Come to Austin." Like. No, man, I'd never really been to Texas. Just like, that doesn't really interest me. I'm just going to go up to Chicago. And he just kept pushing and pushing as I'm driving up. And then he says, or I thought to myself, Greg is flamboyantly gay, single dad, adopted a kid from Ukraine. And if he's in Texas and he's still alive, it can't be that bad. So maybe it's just Austin. I don't know. So I visited him, and we did a meetup. And this is in the summer, so it's about 112 degrees. But, that Austin heat is not too humid. It's doable. And there were 33 people at the meetup, and they were all happy and proud of their city and proud of their state. And they loved there was so much good energy, particularly after I just came from the Gulf. And one young woman, her purse fell on the ground, and out rolled a fresh pair of underpants and a handgun. I'm like, Texas. This is where I moved there 3 months later.
Really?
I've been there 10 years now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It has grown, though.
Oh, my God. It's
crazy,
it's changing.
Right? People talk about it too much.
I mean, I've lived in my wife Tina and I. So we got married in May. We bought a house together, southeast Austin. But we were living downtown, right downtown. I had a place there, and then we moved into an apartment together. And we just saw it happening. It really started with the scooters. That's really what started to mess up Austin. Because they just overnight, it's like, what the fuck is this? And
They're everywhere.
And Austin had already been trying to create a bike vibe with bike paths and just all this stuff, which is ludicrous. I grew up riding bicycles, and it takes maybe 50 years before everyone is accustomed to bicycle traffic. It's not just something that's built in. I turn right around the corner. I still look in my right mirror. I look there to make sure there's not a bike next to me. It's just built in. But people don't do that. So people are always getting hit. And then these scooters pop up, and it's just mayhem. They're everywhere. They're on the sidewalks. They're mowing people down. People are, it's nuts.
They go fast, too. You should see
They go very fast. Fast.
He's got a souped up one. Mm-hmm. How fast does that bitch go?
Like 50?
25.
Ah,
Not bad.
pussy.
Hey.
50? There's ones that go 50?
Oh, yeah.
Scooter?
Oh, I've seen them jacked up doing 50.
Oh, my
sure
God.
Thing.
If you wipe,
yeah.
you're dead.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah, you're going down at 50.
But 25 is already pretty fast.
He flies.
Yeah, because I think most of them do about 15, 17 miles an
His
hour.
is juicy.
But what I noticed is
juice.
because all the Silicon Valley companies are opening up offices in Texas, a lot of them in Austin, and that's where they put the human resource heavy stuff. So not the top programmers. This is help desk. This is the people who review the YouTube videos. So, they're already kind of whack because they're watching nothing but death and destruction and fucked up shit all day long. They don't really have a connection to the city. They're kind of like, I'm here for a couple of years and I'll go move somewhere else. So they don't care. And they're on the scooters.
Right.
So they don't really care about the city, about the whole vibe. And they're like, hey, whatever, get fucked up and drive around. And that's become increasingly more. Austin has some other problems. We're kind of following what California, where San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle. We're following the let people camp everywhere thing. So that's become a real problem, and
it's crazy here.
It's based upon. It all comes from a lawsuit in Boise, Idaho, and that's where this started. Where and the first it went through the Fifth Circuit and then the Ninth Circuit Court. There was an appeal that said you cannot move people who are camping without having a suitable place for them to stay that you can offer them, because then it is a violation of the Eighth Amendment under cruel and unusual punishment. That's why, and that's what Austin said. Well, until that's solved, it's cruel and unusual punishment to move someone who's homeless or not, move someone who's camping if you can't offer them adequate housing.
So these people are just camping on sidewalks there, just like they do here? Is that the underpasses?
Medians,
like
the underpasses. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And so it's this weird legal situation. Yeah, this really started, they lifted the no camping ban, lifted it. So it was not a problem. Then they said, well, we're going to let anyone camp. And it went nuts. And all of a sudden, downtown was just filled with people laying camping everywhere. Then they went, uh-oh. This is not going to work, Mayor Adler and City Council. So, okay, we'll ban it just in downtown, which is pretty much where the mayor lives. The W Hotel. You can't no camping in front of City Hall. But we're a university town, so you've got UT, and there's this whole like half of like a semicircle of camping and just mayhem right on the outskirts of the campus, and kids are afraid. Like now they're getting harassed. We have squeegee guys, dude. I drove into New York every single day from Jersey in 89, 90, and the squeegee guys were a huge problem, and then they were gone. I think Giuliani threw them in the East River or something, and now they're back in New York. It's like, this is not a good thing.
Yeah, how do you fix that, though? The people are worried about the cruelty in fixing it.
Oh, there you go.
That's the problem. It's like you almost have to be cruel to stop that.
No.
No? How do you stop? Well, you have to engineer sort of a homeless solution.
Well, what are we talking about? Not everyone who is squeegeeing and loitering and soliciting is homeless.
Right.
Or, it's not necessarily something that they didn't choose. A lot of people choose a vagrant lifestyle. There's tons of it, particularly in warmer climates.
Like here.
And I do a lot for the homeless problem in Austin, as much as I can. And none of it is sanctioned by the city. They're fucking morons. It's like, oh, we'll build affordable housing. We'll get a hotel and we'll turn that into it's like, oh, a slum hotel? Okay, great. The number one reason people become homeless is catastrophic loss of family. That's the number one reason. Someone dies, this, and then it's downhill from there, and before you know it, you're out on the street.
And it's very difficult to rebound from that kind of thing.
And so people need community. Everybody needs community. So where do they find the community? Under the bridge. That's where the community is, and the community is transactional. It's drugs. It's whatever. That's a community. It's not a healthy one, but it's a community. There's actually a great project in Austin called Mobile Loaves and Fishes Community First Village. Mm-hmm. Started by this guy who was in construction, and he just put down a whole bunch of tiny homes. And people who are, if you're homeless, you can go there and you can live in a tiny home, but you rent it. And there are some prerequisites, but you don't have to be necessarily drug free because it's your home, so you can do whatever you want in your home. But it's like $200 or $250 a month. Most people, if they do the paperwork, they can get Social Security or disability, which will cover that. They still have to, either work there in the community garden to feed themselves. They have different, like a auto detailing, got all this different stuff. But there's no policing. It's not, I think there's 500 people there now. And it's working out fantastically.
Oh, that's cool.
Because they have community. Now that
an outside-the-box solution.
Totally. Gets no money from the city because there's a religious aspect to it. There's a ministry part. So, we can't give money to that because, fucking God nuts or whatever it is. But it's really working extremely well.
That's great when someone comes up with something.
Yeah.
I don't...
I mean, people should look at this. Alan Graham is a saint. What he did, and he lives there. He lives in a small home on premises. Yeah, and if you go there, he'll be happy to show you around. I mean, they got all kinds of cool stuff. But it's just people are living together. He says, so if Joe walks out in the morning, not you, Joe, but the other Joe, and he's got his dick hanging out, and he's like, ugh, instead of the neighbors calling the cops. The neighbors, hey, Joe, what's going on, man? Let's sit down for a second. Let's have a coffee. Let's see what's going on. Pull your pants up. Let's and a community.
Right.
Community First Village. That's the answer. But that's not the answer that you hear from your local city council or your mayors. It's always, well, we don't have affordable housing.
Affordable housing is not going to fix everything. It's also, there's a lot of mental illness. That's a giant
well, of
part
course.
Of it. Drug addiction.
But there's a lot of people with mental illness who have houses. So,
it's true.
So definitely, it's mental illness and drug addiction, but it really starts with catastrophic loss of family. That's the number one reason people become unhoused.
Out here, the shift was, Jimmy, what would you say, about 4 or 5 years ago? It really started kicking in somewhere around then, yeah. Somewhere around 4 or 5 years ago, you just started noticing like villages of tents under underpasses.
Yeah.
And then we used to do Fear Factor in downtown LA, like right down the street from Skid Row, which is an extraordinary place. If you've never seen Skid Row and you drive by, you go, what? This is real? Like, this is downtown Los Angeles, and you're in a zombie movie.
Which they turned beautiful, by the way. I mean, they really, downtown LA became really nice.
Some parts of it.
Yeah, great infrastructure and everything. But then
restaurants and really cool apartment buildings and stuff. It's an interesting spot. But then there's also Skid Row,
Yeah.
which is just, you can't believe the staggering numbers of people that are just camped out.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands and thousands, just a mass, like people coming out of a fucking stadium to see a game.
Adam Carolla said it really well. Forget where I saw him. He said it's like no one wants to be the bad guy. No one wants to say, okay, this shit has to stop. We got to do something about this, and it starts with stopping whatever you're doing. And that's part of cancel culture.
Yeah.
People are afraid, because cancel culture is real. If you have something to lose, like you have nothing to lose, I have nothing to lose. You're bulletproof. To a degree, I'm bulletproof. You can cancel all you want. You're not taking away from me. No advertisers. I don't have them. Only the people who listen can stop listening. That's the only thing that could happen.
How do you monetize your podcast if you don't have advertisers?
Well, we call it the value for value system. When Dvorak and I started the show 13 years ago, it was just him and I just talking on Skype. I was in London. He was in San Francisco. And we noticed that, because I like to read legislation, I'll read bills, I was reading the Lisbon Treaty, which was kind of the European, it was supposed to be the European Constitution, which was voted down by France, the Netherlands, and Ireland, and then the European Union went, no, let's vote again. You did it wrong. Literally, like, re-vote. And so, okay, I guess we'll vote this way now. And then I was reading it, like, this is not the way it's being portrayed on television. Like, it won't need a passport to go to other countries. We'll have the same money. I mean, I was seeing shit in there that was way different about you can incarcerate people, you can deadly force by the cops would be legalized. And none of this is really what's happening over here. At the same time, I read a book called, I'm just going to give you the background to get into the money part, called Legacy of Ashes by New York Times writer David Weiner, I think. And it was about the CIA, and my uncle appears in this book multiple times, my uncle Don Gregg, who was a big guy in the CIA for a long time. And I called him up and said, hey, Don, have you read this? He said, yeah. I said, is it true? He said, yeah, it's pretty much how I remember it. I'm like, okay. So whatever is on television and radio is not at all really what's going on or what has happened. And so it started to become a lot of work. We're doing work, and then we said, well, we'll never get advertised. Dvorak's a radio guy. He's a media guy, so we understand it all. We'll never get advertisers. That'll never work. So we'll just have to ask people to send us money.
But why'd you say you would never get advertisers?
Because it's too controversial. I mean, yeah, we can get some advertisers, but not the real advertisers. That's what we talked about earlier. There's no advertisers really going to be interested. And also, how do you what are your ratings? What are your metrics? What are your numbers? Certainly then the questions, well, how do you know if someone listens if it's just a download? I mean, I'm sure you've gone through all of this. Also, we didn't want to have a fucking meeting.
Yeah.
I don't have a meeting with advertisers. I don't want to meet anymore. No more meetings. But we did something different. We said, instead of saying, send us $5, I don't work for tips, you don't work for tips. Instead of that, what is this show worth to you? So you just listened to us for a couple hours. You could have gone to the movies. If you took a date, you had a Coke and popcorn, $50. Was this worth $50? Up to you. And what we discovered is that value is very different. Some people will say, here's $5. I love the show. Someone else says, here's $500. That's how much I value the show. Someone else says, fuck, I'm going to give you $1,000. That's how much I value the show. And we built this model where we literally just say, what value does the show bring to you? And we thank people with the amounts that they gave. We're completely transparent. You can just sit there and see what people are giving us. And it just became this whole interactive feature where, we put levels in. So if you donate $200, you're an associate executive producer, just like Hollywood. Who the fuck to say it's a real $300 you're an executive producer. And we do a little mention in a different part of the show for the executive producers. And they can read a note, and oftentimes it's usually something about the show. So they're brought into the conversation specifically. So it's not just a donation segment, it's content. And we have, like you have, lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, college professors, tons of military, lots of spooks and three-letter CDC. Also, it's kind of a spook agency. There's all kinds of crazy people who really, I think, enjoy when we talk about what they're doing. And so they love to let you know, and then maybe anonymous, like, hey, man, don't mention my name, but, here's... And that just grew. And, now 13 years later, we're feeding 2 families, and we're very, very happy. And that's all I do is, twice a week, Sundays, Thursdays. We do record it live. We don't do any post editing or anything. It's in and out, just done.
And do you like the fact that you just don't have any connection to anyone other than your fans? Is that very satisfying?
Extremely satisfying. It's not just fans. We don't call them listeners, fans. They're producers.
That's a great way of putting it.
Everybody is a producer. If you see the amount of stuff that I get in, so take coronavirus. We've got a lot of people who are very specified, not just in epidemiology, but in finance, who can give us all these different insights. And you put it all together. I'm really a professional information manager, and I built a whole bunch of systems specifically for that. I just get stuff coming in, and we like to deconstruct the media. So we'll play anywhere from 30 to 50 little news clips in a 3-hour show, and then just deconstruct it. Why is this being said? What is really behind this? Is it true? And then I spend a lot of time researching. That's really what I do. I just research and look at stuff and bang it around. Look at this, if I can, from all angles as much as possible, and then present it. And it's often surprisingly accurate.
Wow. I love that idea of calling them producers, and I love the idea that you're not connected at all to anyone other than your fans. Yeah, that's perfect.
The producers, Joe.
Yeah.
It's the producer.
I like it.
And then we started to, I guess the correct term would be gamify it. So people started saying, hey, man, I've donated $1,000 like in total, over whatever. That's fantastic. We should reward these people. So we started to give them knighthoods. Why should the Queen, who I've met, why should the Queen of England be the only one who can do that? We can do knighthoods. They're just as good. And you get a signet ring and some sealing wax.
Do you really?
Yeah.
You get a real ring so you could actually close a letter with it?
Yes. Oh, when
drip them out the wax.
People send letters to us all the time. They got their meetups. They're people with their rings. It's like a badge of honor.
It's a little culty.
It's
a little bit. It's unavoidable.
There's a lot of different elements. I would say more like a church, which can also be a cult. It's not an evil cult. In fact, it's a very healthy cult. We now have people are now doing meetups around the world where they come together, and we have a noagendameetups.com. People can schedule it, and we got all this. That's another thing. We have all the infrastructure. The entire show is run by the producers. So we have independent architecture for our servers, all of that. One run by Void Zero, Sir Bemrose. They run it. They do it, out of the love and goodness of their heart for the show. Of course, they receive titles, et cetera, for that. We have an art generator where every show we have has new art. There'll be 10 or 12 different submissions. It's kind of a little contest. To have new art on every new podcast is really exciting when it shows up in the podcast app. It's something different. But we also have, oh my God, we have search engines. We have just all this stuff that guys and gals have just built for us, and it just kind of runs, and it all kind of fits together. So we would never be able to make money with this if we outsourced the production, paid production. We wouldn't make it. And I think it's very hard for anybody to do that unless you're at a JRE scale, which is a little different. We don't even know how many people listen. We don't know. We don't fucking care.
You don't know how many people listen?
There's no actual way to know. There's no technical way. Anyone telling you different is full of shit. There's no way to know how many people listened. It's just not. The Apple iPhone app does have some statistics that you can get, but it's only iPhone statistics. So you can kind of get an idea, and you can extrapolate out. That's recent that they have that.
Meaning that you don't know how many downloads, really, or you don't know how many people listen to the downloads?
I can count downloads, but how many people listen to it? You don't know.
Right.
And even then, there's a lot of network address translation that you may not be counting all the downloads. It's just technically not true. Unless you rig the listening side, which is kind of what Apple did, and have statistics there, which no one has, there's no way to actually know who's listening. But for us, it's like, can I pay the mortgage? Okay, great show. That's it. And it's like killing and eating the meat yourself. It's a version of that. And I love it. We've spawned a couple other shows that have the same system. Jen Briney with Congressional Dish. I've started a new one called MoFax, which has the same systemology. It is so fucking gratifying. I love it. I love the people who help us, who produce stuff for us. I mean, I'll go to a meetup, people, donate on the spot, but they also love just meeting together without us there. All over like Leap Day, there must have been 14 different meetups around the world, and I'm talking Israel, Australia, England, the Netherlands, just all over the world, and they get together to just be in a non-triggering environment. So you can say whatever the fuck you want, kind of like our show. No one's going to get triggered, no one's going to get outraged, and it's all different kinds of walks of life. And they have one thing in common: it's like, they think the media is kind of full of shit, and they support the show and they like those topics, and but it's small amygdalas, man.
That's cool.
Small amygdalas.
It has been it's been a weird ride for us, noticing how much more outrage people get at things today than they did just a few years ago. And targeted outrage, where people just decide that, they're going to start attacking you for something that used to be normal to say. Like there was some of it is so ridiculous. It's crazy. Like there was Titania McGrath had a...
That's a great Twitter account.
Yeah, I love that guy. Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. He's got a post. There was a sign that was hanging from a window in the UK that it basically was the definition of a woman. It said a woman, a female human being, noun, right? That's like the sign. And then all these people went crazy and were protesting it, saying that it's a transphobic dog whistle, that's a new one, right? Dog whistle's only been around for like 2 years. People calling something a transphobic or homophobic or a sexist dog whistle, like holy shit, like you can't say anything anymore.
Well, let's go back to the basics. I was on the internet very early, 1987, before the World Wide Web. And you may remember we had something called Usenet groups.
Yes.
And the Usenet groups, and the way it used to work, because we didn't really have a widely spread internet back then, except in universities. And I was on MTV, and when I saw the internet, I'm like, holy fuck, I'm emailing with my audience, who were not counted in the ratings, by the way. College audience don't count in the Nielsen ratings, or at least didn't at the time. And they want something very different from what MTV is playing. So I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I got into these Usenet groups, and the way that worked is you'd post something, and then overnight it would be copied all around the internet, and you had to connect to a special server, and you pulled in the groups that you had subscribed to. And so really it was kind of it wasn't an immediate conversation, but you'd post something, and then people would reply back. And I just kind of jumped in 2 feet and immediately, fuck you, commercial MTV asshole. What are you doing here? Fuck off. You're not supposed to quote like that. You're supposed to quote at the bottom and the top. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And what that was is the minute you have the opportunity for people to say stuff anonymously, they turn into giant dick bags. Almost everybody. This is just an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
Now we've made it so easy, and with all the little the blips and the blooms and the rewards that you feel when something is posted or someone goes against you, and it's like and again, I think amygdalas have swollen because of this. So then you get this you respond differently to what you think is an attack, and the attack and this shit registers in your brain as something really dangerous, and I'm going to go back at them. But they're anonymous, and that's the best thing. Then the blue check mark became a little more interesting. Which I don't have, and I tried to get one for a long time. Someone over there hates me, and now
really?
Oh yeah, they wouldn't. No,
that's what it is. They hate you. So
what else could it be? I've never gotten a blue check mark. I don't want one now. Now to me, it's the mark of the beast. You got a blue check mark, I'd be looking over my shoulder, man. I was like, So now that's become kind of those are the people that now risk being deplatformed because you have status,
right?
And so it's fun to bang against these people. Like, fuck this guy, I'm going to bang against him. So it's some human nature that just exists within us. Like, it'd be really easy for me to go online, under whatever Twitter handle, Joe Rogan, you dick. I wouldn't say that to your face. Look at you, beat me the fuck up. So no. But people have no problem doing that anonymously.
Yeah, they don't see you. They don't feel when people look at you in the eye and they act like an asshole, like they feel you like, what the fuck, man? It's like a natural human instinct to not do that.
All the visual cues, the human interaction.
Yeah. That's how we're supposed to talk.
The book Lost Connections, I think it's Harari, I think is the guy's name. Lost Connections. That's the guy you should have on your show. He delves into
the same guy who wrote *Sapiens*.
Maybe, I don't know. What's his name?
Noah Yuval Harari. Is that him?
Look up Lost Connection. Johan Hari.
Johan Hari.
Yes.
Oh, that's a different guy. He's been on the podcast. Hasn't Johan been on the podcast? Yes.
So
that's right.
Lost Connections.
Twice, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that one. Yeah. That human your eyebrows. It's not just for catching sweat dripping off your brow. It's for communication.
Yeah.
Inquisitive.
Feed,
all this stuff.
Cues.
All these cues are not there.
The deplatforming is getting really preposterous too for things. Zuby got deplatformed. He got kicked off of Twitter. This is crazy.
Who's Zuby?
Zuby is a musician. He's a rapper from the UK who's been on the podcast before. I mean, the dude doesn't even swear, right? He's back on, so they suspended him temporarily. But this is why he got suspended. I forget, he was having a discussion online about something, and someone said, I bet you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, something to that regard, like, I bet I sleep with more women than you do, to which he writes, okay, dude. That's it.
Transphobic.
I mean, he didn't know. He said, I have no idea who that person was.
Especially the UK, it's illegal. The UK, you cannot transphobicize somebody, and you can actually get a visit from the cops.
But he even made posts about it, like showing how ambiguous he couldn't figure out. He didn't know if it was a guy or a girl. He just knows someone said that, and he was like, "That's a ridiculous thing to say. I bet I sleep with more women than you." So he goes, "Okay, dude."
Right.
Like what? He's not even insulting the person, and they decided by him saying, "Okay, dude," that is grounds for being banned from Twitter temporarily. Like.
Well,
that's madness. And then these people are laughing about it and making light of the fact they were able to do that. Because it's a game, right? They have a rock and they see a window and they want to throw that rock. Mm-hmm. And they got him, it worked. They got him kicked off temporarily. But that sends a weird signal to everyone else because it makes you self-censor. It's not healthy for anybody.
It's also not really a sustainable business model long term. I mean, Twitter, because of this, the cancel culture, they said we're not going to take any political ads, that's why Jack Dorsey's going to get kicked out.
You see that ad? I mean, you see that new thing with a billionaire guy just bought a shitload of controlling stock.
Yeah, Paul Singer, he is a huge part of the Republican financial engine. This guy has been it's very interesting he's doing this now because he's an activist investor and he's trying to get 3 or 4 board seats. He'll get them because of the amount of shares he's bought up, like 1 billion at least. Because he, sees the so-called bias against the right, and he wants to skew that back. All of that is a failed mission. The advertisers eventually want no part of this. They just don't want to have a part of it. The future is some version of a federated system, which exists today. Mastodon, if you've heard of Mastodon.
Can I pause you for a second? When you say the advertisers don't want a part of it, what do you mean?
They don't want controversy.
Any controversy?
Fuck no. They don't want
they don't want organized attacks or bans.
They don't even want to be near it.
Right.
They don't want to be near it. It hurts. I mean, that's why you see quite the opposite. You'll see Procter and Gamble and all these big, going way out virtue signaling as much as they can. Like, we're all, Sports Illustrated is going to have, for the first time on the swimsuit issue, we'll have large women. I'm saying that because that's what they are. They're large women. It's different.
Are you allowed to say large still?
I am.
There might be a time where large becomes a problem.
What are they going to do?
To whose?
But and I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that they're being forced to do this. It's not an organic thing. I'm not really a Sports Illustrated guy, but I just don't know. Was this something that the readers wanted? Maybe. I don't know. I doubt it. So. And again, it's not necessarily bad, but anything by force is shit. It's fucked up.
Go broke. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
They're,
So
they're
this
going to
just-
give it a chance, and no one's going to buy that episode.
But that's another thing that I like about your show is you're a man. You're a dude. You're not afraid of it. You're not afraid to say it. And I think it's very healthy. And I'm sure you get all kinds of shit all the time from all kinds of people for all kinds of crazy reasons. But it's important that we keep some of this just alive.
I get a lot of support. I mean, I
I'm
might
sure you
get
get tons of support,
some
yeah.
shit, but I get way more support than I do shit.
Yeah, oh, good.
I'm a nice person. I just happen
You
to be
are. Mm-hmm.
a male, and I think it's okay to be a man. And the whole toxic masculinity thing is so fucking ridiculous. Like, no, there's bad people. Some of them are men. There's bad women too.
Mm-hmm.
Like Casey Anthony, it's a bad woman. It's not a indictment against all women. And this idea that men and masculine behavior is somehow or another negative. No, negative people are negative. I mean, that's what it is.
Exactly.
Men and this attack on men is so stupid. It's to throwing out the baby with the bathwater. That's what it is. It's just dumb. It's dumb people that are doing it, and they're doing it in an articulate way and in a passionate way, and they're using all their verbal skills to try to argue it in a way that they seem to think that it's justifiable, but it's basically a tribal thing.
And then what you see is big corporations who, if anything, want to be on the right side of history.
Right.
They will never go against the mob.
Of course,
You just
right.
don't go. And so
And it's not even the full
self-perpetuates.
mob. It's not even. It's like
No,
it doesn't
it
matter.
could be
if
very
80%
small.
of the people are supporting you. 20% of the people not supporting you is a large number if they're active.
and it's such a waste of time.
Yeah, it is.
So when are we smoking some weed? Because I'm about ready.
We could do it right now.
Now I will say, beware, my Tourette's will get significantly worse, but
That's fine.
but that can be entertaining.
How have you had that your whole life?
Since I was diagnosed when I was 7. I actually didn't know about it until my dad passed in November, and
Jimmy, where's that aluminum ashtray that was here?
and my which one?
The
This
aluminum
one? There's a little one. No, that's not
There was an
aluminum.
aluminum one that was out here.
Oh, here. This one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
And
We got a little joint right here.
and so my sister, was talking to him and wanted to know a couple things, and she wrote up a little kind of like report. And I was reading, I'm like, oh, fuck. See, yeah, Adam was diagnosed at 7 with mild Tourette's. Like, they never even fucking told me. Thank you.
They didn't tell you?
No, I've known it because I got twitches and things. And MTV was great for me because the segments were like a minute and a half, and I can control it for a minute and a half. But, I'm always like, typically I can see out of the corner of my eyes, like, not here, but okay, they got Joe on screen, so I can do all my things. All right, we're back.
What causes it?
Yeah, don't know.
No one knows?
Shit firing in your brain.
Does anything calm it?
Well, it's not, no. I mean, I'm sure there's some crazy ass drugs, but I won't do that.
Right, of course. Well, you seem to have a very, very mild version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why would you fuck with your neurochemistry?
It's who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm 55. I don't give a shit anymore. It's
Right.
it's a part of me. I'm just saying it up front because you'd be like, what the fuck is Curry doing?
Yeah.
That's why I love radio. I've always been a radio guy. I can be like ticking
Right.
away and like no one sees me. Oftentimes if I'm doing a long thing, I mean, I'll just be like completely screw my eyes shut wide and I'll be into it and no one can see that.
Right. Well, there's something beautiful about audio only. I mean, I really enjoyed doing audio and video together on this show, but there is something pure.
Is there tobacco in this?
Oh, no.
No?
No. Why, do you want some with tobacco in it? No, that's just weed.
No, I stopped
Yeah, that's why I
smoking
pulled that
tobacco.
one out. We have blunts here, which I like.
Oh, I do. I've never done a blunt. I'd do one, but see how this goes.
I will give you a couple of minutes. See how that
And where's the
goes.
Black Rifle coffee? I mean, I got the turmeric
Do you
stuff.
want some?
Yeah, I'd love some. The turmeric, I'm just
Okay.
afraid my lips are going to look
have to
like
make up some coffee.
like I puked. That,
Yeah, I know it does, but it
not
doesn't
really
really
a-
show up. It's,
Oh, really?
Yeah, not on camera. It's you get a little bit of a hue to your lips with the turmeric, but that stuff's delicious.
Turmeric is fantastic.
Yeah, in the coffee with that Laird Hamilton superfood blend, it's very, very tasty.
Yeah.
And
No,
you-
it tastes good. I like the taste.
You're doing something good for your body. It's actually good for you, legitimately.
I tell you, man, that's the best thing for my body.
It is,
I don't know
right?
the inside of a doctor's office or a
Calms you.
hospital. I mean, I'm hanging together from THC.
Texas is weird though, right? You have
No,
to
it's
be
n-
medical. Can you
No,
get
no,
it-
no medical, no nothing. No.
It's free now.
No, it's illegal.
Oh, everything, even medical. God damn it! Jesus, Texas.
It's not like, well, in Austin, they haven't really decriminalized, but they're like the cops are. I mean, they really can't get away with letting people steal and rob and do crazy shit on the street. You know, it's like here in California, you can steal up to $950 and then also go busting people for weed. So they really got better things to do. So they're not really making a problem out of it. But
it's still a problem
it's still illegal.
if someone wants to find a reason to arrest you.
Oh, absolutely.
And then it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
It's just sad that Texas, which is one of the most free places in the world, you can have a fucking giraffe in your backyard. You can't smoke a joint.
But it'll change. It's inevitable. It'll change. It's
I
interesting
think so.
because, you know, growing up in the Netherlands, where marijuana was never legal. It was just they called it oogluikend toegestaan, which means we look the other way and it's okay. That's basically what it is. And you know, it was limited to coffee shops where you can sell it. That's still kind of that way. You're not actually allowed to produce it, but okay. The Netherlands, Holland is a narco state. I mean. Really? All your ecstasy comes from there. Oh yeah, everything is shipped through the Netherlands.
That explains all the techno.
Of course, it was techno came with its own drug.
Dutch kickboxers were famous for coming out to techno music.
Yeah.
Like Holland, I don't know if you know, is like the birthplace of some of the greatest
MMA.
kickboxers of all time. Not really MMA.
Well, I knew some MMA guys.
There's some MMA guys from Holland, but it's really famous for kickboxing.
Okay, I didn't know it was kickboxing.
Yeah,
I really don't know shit about it, but I do know that a lot of guys there become very famous.
Like it's the greatest of all time. There's it's a crazy pool of talent that came out of Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Well,
Ramon Deckers and Rob Kamen and Ernesto Hoost and Peter Ertz. Like the names of these Dutch guys, these all savage Dutch guys. And everybody was like, how Holland? Like what's happening over there?
It's a very interesting country. I'm very glad I grew up there because it gave me a worldview. I think that, you know, it's incomparable. So the drugs has never been a problem. You could walk into a bar at 13, look like you were 15. That's changed now. Look like you were 15, you could drink, you know, beers, order a beer.
How old do you have to be to drink?
Well, now they've changed it to 18, 21, depending on where you are. But it used to be 16.
Really?
Kind of, yeah, it was very loose. I mean, once the EU came into play and they had to harmonize and become the same as all the countries around it, which is not actually true because Portugal
decriminalize everything.
Yeah, they decriminalized, I think, maybe 15 years ago, and spectacular results.
Yeah.
But you can't really sell it, but you can get a prescription for almost everything, including heroin. So they've changed kind of that. But
yeah, people have a really hard time with that. But hey, look, we're not putting a dent in heroin, folks.
No.
It's going the other way. It's going. I mean, when I was a kid, I never thought we'd have a heroin uptick in this country. When I was a kid, everybody thought of heroin as the stuff that killed Jimi Hendrix and stay the fuck away from it.
Right.
And people overdose and then they die. Once you start shooting a needle, boy, you fucked up. Like, don't go that
you could
road.
never even imagine
It's
putting the
unattractive.
needle in your arm. That was like not even an imaginable
It has
thing.
the worst PR representation of all time. It's killed some of our greatest rock stars, right? Janis Joplin, dead. All these people. Kurt Cobain commits suicide, had a problem with heroin, classically. Lead singer of Alice in Chains, Lane Staley, right? Heroin. So many of these guys.
Yeah.
And the guys who kicked it, who come back from it, will tell you, Jesus Christ, I was in Satan's lap.
Yeah.
Like he had a grip on me. I could not get free.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, it's got an uptick. So what's the solution? The solution is clearly not business as usual. That's like what is that expression, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again.
Expecting a different result.
Yeah, we know now that we have a problem. Like, I don't know if legalizing it is the only way to fix it, but to make it illegal, you're just propping up organized crime. That's all you're doing. You're not stopping people from doing it because these people, there's a giant percentage of them that are doing stuff that a pharmaceutical company made that they got illegally. Now they're selling illegally.
Right.
They've become drug dealers, whether it's the cartels or other people.
Well, but Joe, we had the financial crash in 2008.
Yeah.
I don't think the trillions that we put in really saved us. I think the drug trade in general was the only thing that kept the economy running at the time. I mean, this is so big. The money in drugs is so astronomical. You can't even fathom how big it is. It's
If
bigger
you
than
include pharmaceutical
a lot
drugs.
of so many industries pale in comparison. I mean, HSBC was literally laundering the money from Mexico with drug dealers just coming up on the Mexican side, throwing millions of dollars a day into the deposit. And it got pushed out the other way into the legal system.
Jesus.
James Comey was running that at the time.
Jesus, James.
He was well aware.
It's just nuts how much money is involved in it and how many people look away. People are trying to stop different flavored tobacco smoke. I see you're a vapor.
Well, that I actually looked into that very, very deeply.
Yeah.
This was the tobacco industry had a problem. The problem was this. I kicked cigarettes with this because it's just, you can have nicotine in it or not, but, it's not a tobacco.
And have you had any health consequences from using that thing? 'Cause
Zero.
I keep hearing about people getting lung issues.
Well, okay, so a couple of things happened. The lung issues, and I don't know who you know personally, but there was this.
I don't know anybody personally.
There was a
that has problem.
scare, and the scare killed a couple of people, like 10 people. And what it turned out was that was people who had vaped THC cartridges. And because the people who you buy your THC cartridge from a dispensary here, it's actually packaged by somebody else, not by that person. So you have, King World or whatever, these different, that's kind of a reputable brand, but it's packaged somewhere else. That means putting the stuff in. And they put in some vitamin E acetate, and that just kind of like created heat that up and became a web of some shit inside your lung and fucked you up. So that's a bad thing, but it had nothing to do with vaping nicotine with the typical chemicals that you get from reputable companies.
Can I ask you
that.
this? Is the vaping from marijuana with their process is more problematic than vaping of tobacco?
Well, it certainly was in that case because someone changed the formula. Then you need to have some oil in there in order to keep it liquid and for it to just for it to be able to go into the vape and not.
So the
be
issue was actually the vitamin E oil?
Yes, yes. And so that stopped, of course. Somewhere someone did something shitty and that happened.
A really high guy actually said this to me once. He told me that he uses organic MCT oil for his vapes, and he was like handing me his vape. I'm like, bro, I'm not sucking on your vape. I don't even know you. You could be a crazy person. You could be DMT vapes. They have DMT vapes now. Somebody hands you a vape pen, you might be going into orbit
for 20 minutes.
Yeah, for 20 minutes. But what if you're driving?
Oh,
Well,
I think I've flown a helicopter high.
On DMT?
No, on weed.
Oh, that's a different animal.
Yeah,
though.
with an instructor. He wanted to see how I did it, and it was perfect. Anyway.
Yeah, I play pool, which is a very sensitive thing. Like
not quite the same as death by helicopter.
It's not,
but
you're controlling the rotations of a ball. It's very delicate.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Like literally the amount of effort you put, if you watch a good player, the amount of effort they put really accurately depicts how many revolutions of the cue ball.
I'm sure, yeah.
And after it's colliding with the object ball, and you get more sensitive to that when you're high.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is another one. A lot of people do jiu-jitsu high.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
It's really, really, really common. Guys smoke out in the parking lot and then go roll. It's really common.
Well, I did the most perfect landing ever when I
probably super into it.
Oh, and it's
Super
very
sensitive.
small input. The helicopter, you've seen it. It's very, very small.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the tobacco industry had a real issue. And that it also comes back to the states because there's this master agreement that was put in place decades ago that tobacco companies would pay a percentage of their sales to all states as a pre-compensation for whatever fucked up shit people get from smoking tobacco. And all these states wrote big bonds against that money. And so when the income from the tobacco companies was decreasing significantly because of vaping, all of a sudden the states are going, especially this one, oh, what the fuck? We have these bonds are going to go bust. That's when you have your state bond go bust, this is a real problem. It's a financial issue. States and cities and everything go broke. So everyone had an incentive to get rid of vaping and get people back on tobacco. So Altria bought Juul, the vape.
Pen
This is hardcore. This is got a battery. It's all technical. You get the vape juice. Juul is a prepackaged product. Kids were buying it like.
What is the
candy.
benefit of that over a Juul?
You can control how much the draw
I see
is.
dudes that look like dragons. They blow these gigantic.
And you can put whatever you want in it, not just limited by what Juul wants to sell you. So.
We got some coffee.
Oh, nice,
Black
man.
Rifle coffee in the house.
It comes with nice.
The mug is yours too.
Oh, thank you.
You can keep that mug. I want one of yours though. Do you have a mug? Do you make a No Agenda mug?
So noagendashop.com, which we don't run. These guys, and they just send a donation from time to time. You can get mugs and T-shirts and all kinds
so
of
they
stuff.
just sell your shit and
Well, what they
occasionally
do
give
is
you money?
yeah. So what they do is they go to the art generator, they get images off of that, then they put it on T-shirts, mugs, hats, whatever. They sell it, give a third to the artist, they keep a third, and they eventually give us some money.
Okay.
But we've always said, no, just do whatever you want.
That's
we don't
beautiful.
care. We don't care. It's a kismet. Is it kismet? Kiretsu? I mean, that's a better word.
I don't know what either one of those mean. Do you know what those mean?
I don't know either. It just sounded
What does it
cool.
mean?
That's like something Larry Ellison would say. Isn't kiretsu when two companies agree in like Japan to do some kind of business together without a contract or kiretsu?
Okay.
Kiretsu.
Yeah, those are nice contracts. Verbal ones from people you trust. Cheers, sir.
Yeah, it's like
Glad we got together to do this.
Likewise, it's way overdue. Way overdue.
For sure. But those are good relationships when you have a relationship with somebody where you don't have any paperwork. You just like each other.
Dvorak and I, we eventually had to, do an LLC because the IRS was going, I don't understand. People send in checks, they do PayPal, they give cash. So we have, all, and they're just like, could you just make it a little simpler? Can we just cutting it down the middle because, there's no one else involved.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we just had a handshake, for a decade. It's like, you didn't ask me to, is this my release?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was like, you didn't ask me to sign a release, fucker. Okay. Well, look at this whole thing here.
We made that just in case.
Because you don't want to get sued by somebody.
Well,
I
you
understand.
can.
Of
this
course,
is a weird,
of course you can.
weird world.
Yeah, particularly. Well, you got celebrity guests on.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to be careful about is slander, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to because you like this story.
Okay.
So tobacco states, everyone's keyed up. They buy Juul for $18 billion. They buy it as a write-off. They want to get this company out of the market.
Really?
Then they go to the FDA and they start all this shit about flavors. You saw it everywhere.
Yeah.
It was massive. It was a perfect storm. We got 10 people dying from vaping something completely unrelated. But vaping, e-cigarettes. He had an e-cigarette, he died. It was actually, he vaped, but he vaped a bad THC cartridge and, got a severe problem. So you know how the media plays that, and it just kept on spinning. They're like, well, we have to stop children, and the way you stop it is by taking away the flavors, because children, they want flavors. That's what the problem is. So that fucked Juul over. And actually Altria, who they bought Philip Morris, basically, so it's the biggest tobacco company. They already wrote down half of it. Like just taking the fucking L on it. They want to get rid of it because in the wings they had their competing product, which is IQOS. I quit ordinary smoking. Small I, capital QOS. And it heats tobacco. So it looks like a vape pen. But it actually runs on tobacco and it doesn't burn it. It heats it up. Has some kind of mechanism in the filter, you inhale, and it's almost their dream, which is the smokeless cigarette, very close to it. But most importantly, it's not a nicotine, synthetic nicotine, it is tobacco product, which is their business. And they really ratcheted this up so high that they got Trump involved. And Trump actually, with Melania, they did a thing with Alex Azar, the Health and Human Services Secretary. He said, this vaping is very dangerous. We have a kid. Actually, it was one of those moments where everyone loves to jump on Trump. He said, Melania has a kid. He forgot to say it was his, whatever it was. And now he's actually been overheard saying, I wish I'd never gotten involved in that fucking thing, because he figured it out. He figured out it was a huge scam. The bill has been stopped, but now they're still trying to push through a bill that will help the tobacco companies even more by outlawing any type of flavored e-cigarettes or juice liquid. They just want to get rid of it.
So it's really like Who Killed the Electric Car?
It's exactly that. And they just go look at it now. IQOS, they're launching. There's news stories today that say, oh my God, it's the saving grace. We have the new product we've all been waiting for. Right at the moment that vaping is going to kill you, it's hooking children because of flavors.
So do you think they're hiring people to write news stories, and then news organizations are picking you up because they're being told to
Just do a press release. Just do a press release. Come on. It's so easy in the media. Just do a press release and Oh, by the way, we're Altria, so we're going to buy $500 million worth of advertising over the next 5 years. Would you please run our story? Or, you might want to look at this. Come on, it's tobacco.
So do you think that they make a deal before they accept the press release to do advertising, or do they wait a little bit?
You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. It's implied.
Why do you not
Everyone knows.
Why do you not hear the discussion about over medication of children on television? Look at the number one advertiser.
Right.
If you
Right.
start talking, it's just not discussed. You can't have
because
this
it is a
discussion.
controversial subject, and it would be a good subject for
It's
television
not
because it would get a lot of people paying attention to it.
It's not-
right.
well,
You would get a lot of ratings if you have a lot of stories about over medication of children. People would be like, "What? What is going on?" It would be something people would be interested in. Right?
Yeah.
And yet they don't do it.
Because the advertise.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
just
weird.
look at your advertise. I have to turn off the sound these days because I'm sure that I'm being blanketed with so many ads that eventually I'm going to get propecia. Eventually I'm going to get high blood pressure. My dick's not going to work because that's what you're telling you every commercial block.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's pharmaceutical until like cable news, especially because it's an older demographic. But even if you watch, what is it? What do they have? Where they have 2.5 Men running all TV Land. 2.5 Men, and what's the other one? Doug and Carrie. I love
don't watch
that.
those.
Come on, Kevin James is
2.5 Men.
no. Doug and Carrie, where he's the UPS driver.
Oh, King of Queens.
King of Queens,
Yes.
yeah.
But I don't watch.
Oh man, I can
sitcoms
I can
anymore.
watch that.
That's a funny show.
I can just watch it over and over
Kevin's
again.
a good dude
But
and a
then
very funny guy.
every commercial break, boom.
Drugs. Yeah. What is it? Which documentary was it there that had a description about the United States saying that we are one of 2 countries in the world that allows advertising
Yes,
of
I think
pharmaceutical
Australia is the other.
I think it's New Zealand.
Okay.
It's either Australia or New Zealand.
Sorry, either
Yeah.
one, because
How
that's
dare
like a
you.
real fuck up.
Yeah.
Call out the wrong one of those
I think
two.
I'm pretty sure it's New Zealand.
Uh-huh.
But that, for whatever reason, everybody else is like, what are you, crazy?
Yeah.
And once we got it in there, it's like, once something becomes something that everybody does.
We are crazy.
It's really difficult to fix.
It's crazy that we do that.
I'm going to get you a blunt.
But this coffee, by the way, is phenomenal.
Yeah. It's legit.
You are legit, man.
That is Black Rifle Coffee. Black Rifle Coffee. Shout out to
Isn't
Evan
it
and Matt.
Is the vets who do
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Evan Hafer and Matt Best. They.
That's pretty good, though. What is this?
I don't know what that is. It's weed.
My mother would roll over in her grave if she saw
She
this.
doesn't like it.
Well, she's dead.
Oh, but she didn't like it.
But she would just be like, I don't, it's your mom, Joe. I mean, it's like,
My mom smokes pot.
Yeah, my mom was not a pot smoker.
My parents were hippies.
I grew up with Emily Post etiquette,
Oh, okay.
I still, if a woman comes in, I'll stand up at the table.
Oh, good for you. Well,
Get
in
up
Texas, I love that. One of the things that I really love about Austin in particular is it's kind of a hybrid of hippies and Texas people.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like having guns. I like the whole idea of protecting my family.
Yeah.
And being able to take out an evil government.
Yeah.
I like that.
Whoa.
Well, that's what it's
Yeah,
for.
right.
The
I
Second
know.
Amendment is to protect the First Amendment. That's my view. And we got a culture. We have a gun culture in Texas. So and also people are really nice in the car to each other.
Yeah.
It's like, go ahead, man. You can
Right.
have a fucking gun.
Everybody's got
Go
guns.
ahead. I don't. After you, bro. It's fine. No
Yeah.
one's there's no real road rage.
Well, there's that expression, right? A well-armed society is a polite society.
Now, I'm not saying that that's my rainbows and unicorn vision of the world.
I'm not either.
But it works.
Yes, it does work.
It does work.
There's places where people are armed that it's a really nice place to be. It doesn't mean bad things can't happen there. And when
That's
a bad
neat.
thing
That's
does
very
happen,
interesting.
this stuff, you like it, right?
Yeah, I've never done a blunt.
Oh, it's good, right? Charlie Murphy got me into these.
So that's a pre-made blunt?
Yeah, Charlie would actually make them.
So how much tobacco is in there
thing.
versus...
It's the leaf on the outside.
is it rolled on the thighs of virgins?
I don't believe so. Oh, like Bill Hicks' bit.
I don't know Bill Hicks's bit. I do know that some cohibas are supposed to be rolled on the thighs of virgins.
Is that what they said?
Well, it's marketing.
Hicks had a bit about.
It's good marketing.
Yeah, I forget what it was. Rolled with Claudia Schiffer's pussy lips. I think that's what he said.
I've never been into her. I never.
Well,
I thought
back
she was
in the day, she's
skinny.
pretty fucking hot. Yeah,
she was
she's
hot.
definitely skinny.
Yeah.
But it's
Wasn't she married to David Copperfield? Is she still with him, or was with him for a long time?
I don't know. I try not to pay attention to who's fucking who. It seems like Jamie's
Well,
into
it was a
though.
while
Jamie
ago.
will tell you any kind of celebrity, this or that, it's going down.
I
Yeah,
don't
it was
know.
a long
I
time
don't know
ago.
shit.
She still looks hot though. I saw a picture of her. Mm-hmm. Some of them gals can keep it together.
Good skin.
Yeah, good skin, drinks a lot of water, good habits, I guess. Mm-hmm. So back to the vape pen thing.
Yeah.
So someone needs to make a documentary. That is a crazy little sneaky move, or at least a YouTube video. That's a very. It's probably better.
It's a
for YouTube video.
multi-billion-dollar scam propagated against multiple states in the United States and free choice of consumers, all to protect an industry that essentially we're trying to get away with vaping.
Yeah.
Because I've been an addicted smoker all my life. Smoked cigarettes from at least 15, probably earlier. Then luckily got into weed and smoked. Been smoking all my life pretty much. But I still would roll it with tobacco, which does give you an extra delivery mechanism, an extra kind of kick.
Yeah.
But then I would just from time to time just smoke a cigarette, and I really, first of all, it's chemicals and all kinds of bullshit is in there. Stinks up the house.
Yeah.
I want to live longer. So is this great? No, I'm sure it isn't.
You look very good for a person who smoked a long time. A lot
I'm
of times-
55.
You look great for 55.
Thank you.
You really
Thank
do.
you.
You look a lot younger than
I
that.
think if you took me and compressed me down, I'd look like you. It's got these really long muscles. It's like if you push it all down, it would be better.
Yeah, but your health is like, you look like a healtly person. You look like you're doing well.
So I do the dancing, and I go to ride indoor cycling.
Oh, cool.
I do spin.
Good. That's excellent. It's
Oh my
cardio.
God! But this is more like a dance kind of oriented
Sure,
one. And
music.
it's just fucking loud
Yeah.
music, and it's all in rhythm, and you've kind of got
Yeah.
a group vibe going on,
Right.
and cardio, of course, is fantastic. They also do weights.
Oh, cool.
3-pound weights. Woo, here we
There's
go.
something really cool about doing stuff with a group of people. Any kind of
Yeah.
difficult thing. Like
Yeah.
everybody's pushing everybody. Come on, let's go. It's fun.
But so a lot of spin classes are really competitive, like bah, 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 you see the Peloton ads, like,
Right.
but that's not what this is. This is you're standing, you're sitting, you're tapping back, you're doing crunches, you're doing push-ups, all to the beat. So the faster the beat, of course, the faster you're doing it. So it's like dancing, but then on a bike.
Right.
And I like being yelled at in a dark room.
Right. There's like a boot camp vibe.
And so I don't have my hearing aids in. I don't have my glasses on. So I'm kind of like, you're blurry right now, but I can't see. So I can't see the hottie instructor up there. It doesn't make any difference. It's
Right.
just something about the vibe. So I get into it. Yeah.
Tell me about the hearing aids, because you took them out when you got in to put the
yeah.
headphones on. And this is from listening to music too loud.
No, that would
No.
you'd think. No, I have a genetic problem that I didn't know about until 3 years ago, and so it's not. And I went to an audiologist. Well, here's what happened. I started noticing. Tina and I had been together for a couple of years. I started noticing I was saying, "Excuse me, what?" I wouldn't hear stuff, or she would say something that I couldn't remember hearing, and I brought it up to her and I said, do you think I ask you to repeat something a lot? She says, no, it doesn't really bother me. And then it says, but the TV is very loud. I said, really? The TV is very loud. I said, oh, I don't even realize that. So I went to an audiologist, and lo and behold, my grandmother on my dad's side was completely deaf almost from her teens. So I have some of this, but it's been okay. Only as you get older, the levels, to see like here's a level where you can hear everything, and I was already kind of there. So now it's just due to age, just everything goes down a bit, and so I'm missing 1K and 1 kilohertz. I'm missing different tones. And so I went to an audiologist and said, well, it's very mild, but yeah, this can make you repeat stuff, and it will get worse over time. And what actually happens to a lot of men in particular is they become very isolated from the world. They don't even realize that they have a hearing problem. And now the difference between having them in and taking them out is massive. I can hear how much less it is. Another clue was that I have for all my podcast radio work, I have headphone, but I put an extra amplifier on it. You can still hear it today. Sometimes I'm talking and then it'll leak just a little bit because I have it so loud. Now that's not going to damage my ears, but the problem with anything you put in your ears, you can't hear the sound anymore. And I like that our processing, our EQ, is very important to me. So I can hear that without the hearing aids, but not with the hearing aids.
Oh, that's interesting. So the hearing aids give you a different kind of sound?
Well, so today's hearing aid is not your grandpa's, geriatric, brown, goopy-looking piece of shit that makes you look like just a total moron. Like,
how dare you? You did the face and
I
everything.
did the face. Hey, I have disability here. I get a victim card. Okay.
You could get probably a plate.
Boundaries,
Special
Adam.
plate.
Boundaries. Yeah, okay. So these are the Widex Evoke. These have 35 channels of compressor limiter, multiple settings. It's an in-ear, so it goes right into my ear. I still have a little bleed through from the outside world, but so usually an audiologist sticks this thing in your ears, makes you do all the tests, and then they'll sit there and they'll sit across from you, and they're going to program it so that you can then hear a normal sound, which is you have to be a trained professional. It's very hard to fix someone who has never heard what is proper.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now, I'm a little different, and I'm also way into sound, and so it's a whole racket. These things are $3,500. It's a huge racket. And the way they do it is the manufacturer, you can't buy it from them directly or from retail. You can only buy it through an audiologist, so they're already getting half the money, the $1,500 at least, and you have to have an appointment. So there's all this money that goes on top. And then you come back after a couple months and they tweak it and you come back again. So I said, look, see who I am. I've told you what I do. Give me the fucking software. She said, oh, no. I was going to give it to you. I just wanted to do one session with you. Said, you have to have this. So I have pre-programmed like 6 different programs. So I can do one just for music. I can do one for television. One for social situations, and I have one so I did it all myself. All these 35 different channels of compressor limiter. So when I'm walking around, what I hear on my ears is like a radio show, like the sound, like when I'm talking right now, I hear my own voice. It all resonates because I've jacked all that up. So I've made my own reality of sound.
Wow.
But I also have one, I can set it to a setting in the mall, I can hear a conversation from 50 feet away.
Whoa.
It was my eavesdropping setting.
Now,
the only thing that doesn't work is you can't have headphones, because that doesn't work, having the hearing aids in with the headphones.
With the sound.
Because you're blasting into the microphone, and it really doesn't work.
That's crazy, though, that you could hear people having a conversation 50 feet away. Can you focus in on people?
By turning my head? By turning my head.
Wow.
There's a lot you can focus. You can have it automatic. So the problem is, the way I've set it up, you can drop a pen there. If I don't see it, I might hear it over there.
Yeah.
Now, that's always going to be a problem. They have an algorithm that will try to guess where the sound is from and tell your ears that. So basically, I'm not the guy you want in the battlefield.
Like telling you where the shots are being fired from. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I just can't hear it.
Wow.
But just for so it just doesn't work with headphones. That's why I take them out.
It's amazing, though. They sound incredibly potent. Like,
oh yeah,
you remember. I mean, you know what real sound sounds like.
Yes.
Does everything sound real to you, or is there a?
Well, what you automatically do, because I was able to do it, if I'm having I have different settings for different situations. Mm-hmm. So if I'm at home, it's relatively quiet, or we have some music on, or TV or whatever. I have the Tina frequency, which is kind of like 1 kilohertz, and that's where I hear her better, and so that's jacked up a little bit. Oh. And then if I hear you talk, I can hear it'll be a little. I can hear it's not exactly you; it's a little too tinny, maybe.
Oh.
So, but that's just me. I mean, that's not everyone's experience, of course, but to me, the disability has become an incredible joy because I have like virtual reality on my head all the time.
I was just saying that. You could probably fuck with someone's voice like a Snapchat filter.
Well,
make them sound like a cartoon.
It's really advanced. I mean, you can connect to an iPhone, so you can stream wirelessly. You can do like if you're driving with directions with the maps, then you can just be talking, and in your ear, all of a sudden it's like, hit the light, turn right. No one else hears it. There's no wires, no nothing. I got you wouldn't even know I had them in unless you look. Yeah,
we're becoming cyborgs.
Oh no, although I'm against it, that is a part of the road to transhumanism.
Right, but how can you say you're against it where you're enjoying this thing?
This to me is more. It's not a replacement; it's an enhancement.
Yes,
so, and
but that's how they're going to get us. When the first dude gets his legs removed for artificial carbon fiber legs that you could feel, but that can run
that'll
60
happen.
miles an hour. When the first guy gets his legs removed in favor of new legs, that's when we're going to go, holy shit.
Whenever I tell my radio buddies about my hearing aids, they're always like, "Oh, that's fucking cool."
It's cool.
I want that too. I want that.
Don't get me wrong. I'm just looking at the bleak landscape ahead of us.
By the way, beware. I want to say something because there's a lot of. They're not called hearing aids. They're called hearing amplifiers. They have some fuzzy legal language that are coming on the market. That you put all the way in your ear. The rechargeables. They've got a whole bunch of them. They're much, much cheaper. From an audio standpoint, I've done it for 40 years. That's not the way you want to go if you seriously want to know if you want to hear properly again. So see an audiologist is what I'm saying. And there's lots of different, it's not all $3,500. It's more expensive, but I just recommend that self-testing is not a good idea.
One of the best pool players in the world is a guy named Shane Van Boning. And Shane is deaf. He was born deaf. And when he plays, he shuts his hearing aids off. And it's a world of silence. And he's just playing in complete, total silence. And when he does that, when he shuts his hearing aid off, he feels like he's got super concentration. Like it doesn't matter what else is going on. All he's doing is just focusing on the balls. And there's that sense doesn't exist. So he's hyper focused on other things. I notice that sometimes when I walk with noise canceling headsets
Same
on.
thing. It'll do similar.
I'll smell things more.
Well, that's kind of well known. Is that different parts of your body compensate for if something's missing.
You're more tuned in. You're more tuned in. Like, look, let's pay attention here. The ears are offline. A mountain lion could be running behind you, and you're listening to fucking All Things Considered.
And that's but that's think about it. If you can't hear the mountain lion frequencies anymore, and today's mountain lion is car engine. There's all kinds of stuff that's you can't hear it. It's dangerous. And,
it is,
and you don't know. You just slip into it. I had no idea until we have a new relationship. So we've been living together for a couple of years, and luckily, we're completely open and honest. Like, hey, I think is this fucked up? Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
It's so cool that exists, though. I mean, that's an elegant solution, and for someone like you, it actually gives you a chance to tinker with shit, and I'm sure you really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love that.
I really do.
I can tell when you talk about it.
It's a small thing, but
even when you talked about the apps on your phone, you're so excited about that.
Just that whole band, like, okay.
Do you use Unix or Linux? Are you one of those dudes?
Oh yeah.
You're deep.
Oh yeah.
So ThinkPad? Are you a ThinkPad guy?
No, I'm not that deep. I actually love I'm deep. I'm not that deep. I used to be a Mac guy, and then Mac started fucking up their USB interfaces, and I got tired of it. And then I went to Windows. A lot of the top DJs, like the Danger Mouse and these guys were all going Windows and for audio. I'm like, check it out. And, there's some good devices available. And so I made this transition. And then I was kind of on Windows. I'm like, holy fuck. Microsoft is spying on everything. Windows 10, there's like 100 different telemetry pieces of shit going out every single day. They're just like Apple, by the way. They're advertising to you like, oh, use Word over here and try out this. It's just, I can't stand it. I can't stand that I have to have an account to use Microsoft Word.
Right.
I don't want it. It's no one else's business. And so I bought the Surface Go, which is a 10-inch screen. It's a tablet, but has a clip-on keyboard. And I just load Lubuntu, which is a lightweight version of Ubuntu. and I use that.
Which is Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Linux.
Tell those people out there that don't know shit.
The only problem is that there really is no good multi-track audio solution for Linux. Please don't email me. I've been following this shit for decades. It's not there. You don't know what you're talking about. It's just it's an issue with companies not wanting to do drivers and there being no platform. But that's too bad. So I still produce our show on Windows. But the rest of my life is all Linux and my flip phone.
Is that your desktop there?
It's just a Lubuntu. I just picked it
Oh,
up.
it's beautiful.
I don't have.
It's about the same, but
It's
beautiful.
That's the idea. I mean,
What do you use for a word processor if you don't use Word?
LibreOffice.
LibreOffice? What is LibreOffice?
I started to laugh at it. It's
Why
like
is it funny?
Dvorak and I just we've tried to move to Linux so many times. It'd always be like, "Hey man, I'm gonna 10 years ago, I'm gonna install Linux." Okay, it was I couldn't get the screen to work. Whatever
Right.
shit it was. Because I'm not. We're just hacking around. And then, in the last year, I said, I'm going to try it again. And it stuck. And I'm like, it worked. It's good enough. And now we're like, yes, our official distro is Linux Mint 19. That's the one you all want to have. And by the way, have your kid learn how to install it on some old computer. It'll teach the kid something. And so LibreOffice has just been this running joke because Libre means free and, kind of like this lovey-dovey because it's a free, as in free open source software.
Yeah, I know some people get attached to that Microsoft tit in terms of like Office Suite and all the different things, but I just use Word. That's really basically all I use.
Well, and you can save in Word format. It doesn't make any difference. And
I think it's just a
even
really
better.
good, as far as like a word processing for. That's all I think about. Like, how well does it do the job?
Well, for me, it's information management and email. I use Clause Mail, and you can really customize it. So I have filters and like chording commands. So I can by doing this, then it'll send back a message like, "Hey man, thanks for this," and then it'll forward a copy to the back office and save it unread in the show folder. That kind of stuff.
If you want to get balls deep into the world of computer technology, it's a long river. There's a lot of stuff to know.
I've been
It's
using
really
my first computer was the Sinclair ZX80.
Sinclair ZX80.
Yeah.
Never even heard
and
of
I
it.
built my own modem, which was, I think, basically like, I don't know, 5 baud, I guess, to commute. And it was an acoustic modem. So we basically ripped open a phone, put the 2 pieces in boxes, and then put another handset on top.
Here, Jamie's got it.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
The Sinclair ZX80.
Dude, and you did that at 5 baud. I remember when they switched from 14.4.
That was way before and then my dad always had computers around the house, and I was online on very early in.
That's amazing. Look at that thing.
So I was hacking with that stuff.
Wow.
And then the Trash 80, TRS 100, which was a kind of a laptop on batteries, VIC 20, Commodore 64.
So when this first started happening, and you started going on Usenet, and you started getting a taste of the internet, like my experience was AOL. I picked up an Apple home computer from one of them office stores, whatever the chain was. I don't even think they're around anymore. It was actually CompUSA. That's what it was. Remember that?
CompUSA,
That's what it was.
Of course.
So
the computer superstore.
Yeah, my friend Robbie used to actually make computers or sell computers for a living, so he was telling me what to get. And I got home, and I somehow or another connected to AOL. And then I remember the first thing I did was go and try to find UFO files. That's all I was trying to find. Like, what are the government's files on UFOs? I want to read whatever the fuck you can read. I want to know what they know. I was downloading all this shit from these like crude AOL boards and like these online searches where you could online search things, and you just
Archie.
Yeah, you would get all the paperwork.
Remember
like,
Archie, the search engine Archie?
I don't remember
You had
that
Archie, and then you had Veronica. They would search different types of servers. Remember Gopher? Did you ever get into Gopher?
Gopher, I don't remember either.
That was so. Check this out.
Jamie does. Jamie's not.
So Gopher was basically the World Wide Web, only there was no web, and so you could log on to a terminal. And you could use a menu system, so basically with the arrow keys, but you go to the right, you might be connecting to a different computer at a different university, i.e. a different server. And then you could have so it was basically all these information documents linking to each other. And I started one, I registered MTV.com,
Wow.
And I went to him and said, hey, I want to, I do this thing on the internet, where a lot of our audience is, and I want to register MTV.com. Yeah, that's cool. Don't worry about it. We have the AOL keyword, so you go ahead and do your little internet thing there, son. Do whatever you want.
We have the AOL keyword.
It's literally what they said.
We got it locked up, bro.
Right.
We got the internet figured out.
So I had this and I'm promoting it on air. Go to MTV.com for my Gopher server. It was wild. You could do shit then at MTV.
Yeah.
And in fact, first I got an email from the University of Michigan. Are the Gophers, is that their symbol?
I don't know.
Michigan?
Minnesota.
You Michigan?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Oof, my God. Thank you. And they said, dude, you're using this commercially. You have to pay us $5,000 for a license. I'm like, just for the server software, which is open, free, but it was something in the license. I said, I'm doing this just on my own. They don't give a fuck. I'm just doing this. I don't have $5,000. I really didn't. I don't have $5,000. I said, if you send me a T-shirt, I'll wear it on MTV. And they said, okay. And I somewhere have a document. You can see there's a video on YouTube of me with the Gopher T-shirt on MTV. And then we're like, oh, man, good,
That's awesome.
cool. So anyway, then...
That's cool on them, too.
So I got this set up. And then I got an email from this guy in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. And it's like, hey, Adam, see what you're doing with MTV.com. Look, I got this thing that I've created, this Mosaic browser. And can you install the server, HTTPD 1.4 or whatever? And that was Mark Andreessen, the guy who went on to create Netscape.
Wow.
And, is now one of the biggest VC in Silicon Valley. And when I saw that, I said, oh, shit, this is like graphic, like a web page. Remember, images would take a long time to load.
Oh, yeah.
First it would be black and white, progressively loading, and it would become color, like a porn picture. Took an hour to download, just like bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yeah, I
bloop.
remember the first time a friend sent me a porn video. He's like, look at this. I was like, what? They can send a video now?
What was it? Do you remember what it was?
It was a girl giving a guy a blowjob.
Okay.
And it only lasted like 15 seconds.
Oh, of course. And that was, and it took you 2 hours to download.
Forever. Yeah. Forever to download.
Remember on Usenet, you would download from 15 different things and you'd get like all these different files and you had a program that put it back together.
Yeah.
That's crazy
Dude.
shit.
What is this?
Yeah, the Gopher T-shirt.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, everybody. Hold on. Let me put
Wow,
let me
look
put
at
the,
you,
I want to see that.
handsome.
I want to put the glasses on. Hold on. I want to see that.
Look at you, dude.
Oh, my God.
Do those days...
on the musical map. Keep it here.
Keep it here, everybody.
do those days feel like a different human being when you look back at that? Like, that's a long-ass time ago. And
Because of the time, yes. I'm sure
what
like...
MTV was like back then and just life back then. I mean,
Well, don't you have that yourself just with age? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
so of course, but
Yeah.
it's all still a part of me. That MTV period is so definitively closed because it's just not, that will never come back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a magical time. It was fun. And to this day, it can be in the oddest places. It's usually a guy in a suit and tie.
Good reflexes, bro.
Oh, that I have. Yeah. I can catch like people drop a bottle, I catch it on the way down. That's my superpower. You get Tourette's, but you get a superpower. That's my catching stuff.
It's super reflexes.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Usually a guy in a suit and tie, and all of a sudden it's like, fucking headbanger's ball, man. And the tie comes off and like Metallica T-shirt.
That's
this kind of-
hilarious. Those
And I
poor
love that,
bastards.
and we share that, and that's a shared experience that only our generation has.
Yeah.
And then once BET started getting MTV had to buy BET because they were getting world premieres from Michael Jackson.
Oh.
So that was the whole thing there, and just it got commoditized. They were so smart to go long. They did the people who were running it at the time were very smart to go with long form programming. They saw it with remote control. And of course, they already had seen a little bit of it with what's the first reality show they had? I forget what it's called.
The Real World?
Real World.
Yeah.
So because the MTV ratings during the day were 0.5 basically, and I was always proud that I would sometimes break one, but I had interesting shows that people like to watch, like Dial MTV. That was the
Yeah.
precursor to Total Request Live, Carson Daly show. So I did that, and that was just the top 10 of the day. But people had the idea that they were making a difference in the chart, which they weren't, because it was number one. Can you guess what was number one requested every single day?
What?
New Kids on the Block, and it was the biggest problem in MTV. So sometimes they just they didn't make it on. Gee. Or we're not playing anything under number 5 today. Oh, New Kids on the Block are 6. Gee. Which it was kind of bullshit.
Kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Didn't that come up recently with
most
Justin
charts are
Bieber
kind of
with like
bullshit.
Twitter?
Back when Twitter trending topics
Trending,
started,
yeah.
like they couldn't figure out what to
He
do.
trended so hard on Twitter, they had to stop him from being number one.
What?
He probably still would be number one, or like Taylor Swift or Beyonce, someone would be up there all the time.
Of course.
They just would
Of
hog
course.
the thing.
Well, if anyone has any idea that this is fair, these rankings and ratings, fuck that.
They're
bullshit.
weird. It's all weird because everybody's competing.
Hey, Joe, this is really nice.
Yeah, it is.
I'm having a really good time.
I am too. I'm really happy you're here. I was really excited.
I've always
about
wanted
this.
to be part of kind of the pirate crew out here, and now I feel like I've kind of connected.
I swear to God, we didn't try to be a pirate crew. That's what's the weirdest thing about the whole thing. There was no thought about it at all. I just kept doing it. There was never a plan. I mean, as far as the plan is making this building, that was kind of a plan,
right? Which is cool incredible. Place. I mean, it's just beautiful to see. I love. You got a clubhouse. It's
a fun clubhouse,
like an honest to God, grown up dude clubhouse.
Yeah, it feels good in this place. It's got good memories. It's got a good feel to it. But
through your show, you've introduced, and I would say mainly the comedians has been the best. And thank God for Netflix and all this stuff that's happening. It's just this is kind of the nucleus of it all.
Yeah,
and it's a lot. It's interesting to be able to see and watch. And this, I think comedians change the world when they're good at it and when they care. And I'm seeing more and more of it, and I like it. Maybe time for a little bit of pushback here and there.
Yeah, I think what it is we have a place where comedians can go and give you like from them to you for the first time, and it's never really like the most you ever had was like a moment if you're a talk show host where you can address the camera. Like, do you remember there's a really powerful moment when what's his name, the English guy that just Craig
Daniels?
Craig Ferguson. Thank you. Sorry, he's not English, is he? Is he Irish?
I think he's Scottish.
Scottish. Sorry, Craig. I like him a lot, but he had this moment where he was talking about Britney Spears, where he like looked at the camera and he said it was about her being crazy, like when she shaved her head. And they're like, "What are you doing? What are we doing? Like, why are we following this girl? This poor girl is losing her mind.
Yeah,
like leave her alone.
Hounding her.
Leave her alone. Yeah, and that really is what it is. Is like once someone like that becomes a topic and it's a subject that they can get clicks on and views and ratings, they'll just hound that poor girl.
A comedian got Bill Cosby in jail.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Hannibal. Yeah, it's
talk about getting canceled.
I know,
it's
right?
Next level canceled.
Yeah,
he deserved that.
He deserved every minute of it. It's very strange, right? He's the strangest of all of them. When I was a kid, we would listen to his album where he talked about God talking to Noah, the conversation between God and Noah. It's hilarious. Hilarious work. It was great. Great comedy. It's hard to imagine that the whole time he was doing that. Spooky.
It's hard to imagine how I'm going to drive back to the airport.
In a straight line, like a wizard. Like a wizard, dude. You have no problem. You can hang out here for a while, too, and sober up.
Good. You
could go work out. There's a gym. Turn the music on, you can dance.
Just hurt. How about that sauna, though? I like that.
Oh, you can do it in the sauna? Sure. We'll set that up.
No,
That's
good.
Great, man.
Yeah.
Do you sauna at all?
No.
I love it.
I have. I used to have a place in Amsterdam. I had a place with a sauna in the house. That was nice.
It's so undeniably good for you. If you do it all the time.
But then I'd be smoking weed in the sauna.
Oh, don't do that.
No, it was very
Well, you
dumb.
could smoke weed and then get in there. That's not a problem. That's probably good.
I liked it a lot. It's a good experience.
Have you done the float tank?
I did that once. I did not like that at all.
Claustrophobic?
No. I just was I couldn't get into any kind of zone or vibe. I just kept like, I'm laying here in lukewarm water. I'm not hearing anything. I was like, no. Am I liking this? It's getting a little colder. No, it's getting warmer. So I couldn't.
Well, that is a real issue. If it's not temperature controlled correctly and you feel cold, it'll fuck up your experience. You really want it in that perfect sweet zone. But when you can get there, it's really all about whether or not you know how to concentrate on breathing. If you can just concentrate on breathing.
I've done breath work.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
It's not a difficult formula that I employ, but I'll tell you guys if you listen, if you also float. When I get in there, I touch the sides to center myself so that I don't bounce against anything and distract myself because I'm floating, and you drift into the wall sometimes. So I wait until the ripples die down because when you climb in, there's going to be like a little bit of rippleage, right? And then when you lay down, once the water gets still, then I let my hands go. And then I just think about breathing. And I'm not a wizard at this, right? It goes in and out. I think about, I forgot to call that guy. I got to send that email. I got to book. I got to put that on my calendar. I keep forgetting. And then if I just stay vigilant and make sure I go, okay, get back on the road. And the road is thinking only of the breathing, only of the in and the out, and the in and the out. I visualize air coming in and out of my lungs, and just that alone, while lying in the tank, will put me in a trance. And it takes a while, but I can do it quicker because I've done it for years. Because it's like the tank's a normal thing. I get in, I'm like, the most I always think is I should do this more often. That's what I usually think. But I can get in a trance by just thinking about the breathing.
Yeah. Tina and I did a breathwork clinic. I forget what it was called, but it was like this tribal beat, and you had to continue to breathe to the beat and wait, and you have one person would be watching you, and then you team up. We didn't team up together, but it was just like that. And then this beat is going, and then you do the breath work, and then all of a sudden you go into a trance, and it's different for everybody. And I could fly, and that was and for just like 30 minutes, I'm just flying, and yet right after you had to draw what you were doing. I mean, it's one of these. Like, yeah, I'm a little hippie too. I like this stuff. It's good. So you draw it, and then I just drew it. I was flying. I was just like this. One of these
like
moves.
a jetpack man.
Kind of, yeah.
Like Iron Man.
But I could just, because I'm a pilot, so I knew
how to shoot.
Yeah, I was like, oh, fuck, this is all I need.
Wow.
And, people had different experiences. One woman who I was partnered with, her turn, and they had told me that she could get a little funky, and she just kind of got out of it and picked up a plastic bat next to her, which I had seen, but she just starts hammering the pillow, like really, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, my God.
And it's just, but fantastic. You come out of it, you're like, wow. I mean, that was just such a great experience.
I bet that bitch does that shit at Starbucks, too. I bet she's just wild, just looking for an excuse. She goes to the yoga class, starts punching the walls. Oh, this pose.
Maybe. Maybe. So, but
But holotropic breathing, I think they call that.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I know that is one of them. I don't know. Maybe
like
there's other methods that they do it, but the people that do it say it gets you high as fuck.
See, if we were live, then Tina would text me now. She's like, she knows all that shit.
Yeah. I think Aubrey's done that shit. I think it's holotropic breathing, right? Is that the only psychedelic breath? There is a for sure a method that people
you can
study.
do so much with your breathing. You can do all kinds of crazy things. I mean,
have you ever you seen those yoga dudes who can suck their stomach in and do that? They do that little thing where their stomach goes into the side and to the side.
I don't find it particularly attractive.
It's very impressive.
I'm like, I've never really understood it. Like, what are you doing? I didn't know it was an exercise. I just thought it was showing off.
I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Because even though it's impressive, I've never attempted it. It's one of those things where I look and I go, yeah, look at that. Like,
yeah, it's impressive,
but to someone who can actually do that.
Is it a thing? Is it like
I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea, but there was this famous jiu-jitsu guy named Rickson Gracie, and he was famous for it. He was one of the first guys to incorporate yoga into martial arts, like really seriously, and it's the greatest Gracie of all time, right? And he would lay there. There's this video from this movie Choke where he's sitting there in a lotus position, and he's doing this crazy shit with his stomach. You can't even believe it's real. Watch this. Look at this. Watch this. This is Rickson when he would do this this intense breathing, but then see he would move his stomach. This is from the movie Choke. But watch what he can do with his stomach.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at this crazy shit where he could pull it to the left and to the right. He has ultimate control over his breath. And that strength and control over his breath from all these breathing exercises that he did was a big part of how he could fight and how his jiu-jitsu was so strong. He had incredible breath control. He had incredible body control.
When you say why his jiu-jitsu was so strong, what does that mean exactly?
He was the most dominant of the most dominant family.
So
in the
his fighting skills in jiu-jitsu? Okay.
He's a legend. Like a legit, there's very few universal legends.
I should come during one of your fighter talk things. I would learn a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but this guy's one of the most interesting. He's one of the most interesting because his family in Brazil was famous for creating this form of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that went on to win the Ultimate Fighting Championship and really revolutionized martial arts, right? But he was the champion of the family, and not just by a small margin, by a large, universally agreed upon margin, where all of them would go, Rickson's the king. No one's even close. Everyone says that. He would go and he would get some of the best black belts in the world, 100 of them in a room, and he would just one after the other tap them out. one after the other.
Is he still fighting? Is he still?
No, he's an older man now, and he's teaches, and he I know he still trains, and he's involved in these big seminars because his opinion is very, very respected because of his intense level of jiu-jitsu that he was able to achieve. But he literally had peaked. He hit past everyone. He figured something out to get way above everyone, and I think that had a lot to do with it. I think the yoga and the mindset and the meditation, his mind was strong. And then because of the yoga, his body was really flexible and really like well-conditioned. He can contort in these amazing ways to achieve submissions. And then also his jiu-jitsu was so sharp. Like his family created it, and like everything was polished. Everyone knew everything, that the correct defense, the correct offense, where you never make mistakes. You can't be in this position, always be here, abandon that and go to this. You have plan B, C, D, and you keep going with him.
True master.
He's running these trains of techniques on people. It's special to watch.
Anyone else like him?
There's a bunch of guys now. There's a bunch of fucking assassins now. But in his day, he was just, there's no one person that stands out above like everyone. There's this kid, Gordon Ryan, who's this really elite submission artist who taps everybody in competition, and he's trained by
I'm sorry, what does submission artist mean?
Well, there's jiu-jitsu with a gi, right? Which is just jiu-jitsu rules. They vary depending upon the organization, but you wear the gi and you can use the gi. You can choke people.
The gi is your dress.
Yes, the white kimono or the blue one. Or people have multicolored.
The guy from the commercial says, "No, this is my business gi."
Yeah. Yes. Right. But even a jacket, like you're using clothes, right?
Okay.
The idea is like if you got in a fight with someone
judo.
Yes, exactly. It actually comes from part of judo called niwaza, which is the ground
I did
fighting.
a little judo as a kid.
Perfect.
Very little.
Jiu-jitsu came out of judo. Judo was the original in Japanese jiu-jitsu, and then it became Brazilian jiu-jitsu when the Brazilians legitimately changed it and altered it. And then there's submission grappling. Submission grappling, there's no gi. So most of the time, guys wear like rash guards, like skin tight, like surfer rash guards, those kind of things.
Yeah, okay.
Or skin tight shorts
Can't
or pants.
really hold on to it.
Exactly. Their idea is you can't grab close. It's just about, it's like wrestling, but it's wrestling with chokes and arm bars. And in that world, there's a guy named Gordon Ryan who's a real prodigy, and his trainer is considered to be one of the all-time great trainers. His name is John Danaher, and they come from Renzo Gracie's academy in New York City, which is one of the greatest jiu-jitsu schools, like universally recognized ever. And it's this giant gym in Manhattan that is just so many killers have come out of this one place. So that kid is probably the top of the food chain today out of everybody. But even his dominance is probably slightly different from Hickson's, because Hickson there was no losses, there was no draws. There was he was just dominating people. Just everyone got dominated, and everybody came out of it going, "What the fuck?" He just ran through everybody.
Well, how did it end for him? What was his last?
Hickson?
Did he have a big exit?
No, he had a giant fight against this very dangerous guy in Japan in 2000, and that was an MMA fight.
And he beat his ass, and so that's a nice exit. That's nice.
Yeah, he won out on top.
That's
Nobody ever beat him in a mixed martial arts fight. He really didn't fight a lot of there was a lot of opportunities for different people that he could have fought, but he just didn't want to, didn't feel like it. He's just a free spirit. But my point, I don't know what the fuck my point was.
Well, here's a question.
The stomach thing?
That's
what it was?
Do you think it's
breathing? That's where it was.
Do you think it's a gene, or is it the environment that I have absolutely no interest in fighting of any kind? I don't watch it. I saw The Thrill at Manila. My dad got me up in the middle of the night. We were living overseas to see it, and I thought I appreciated that as a world event.
Yeah.
It's just never. What is it? Some people I just don't. I don't understand it. I don't like it. I
think it's cool that you don't understand it.
Understand it is probably there's nothing in me that says, "Oh yeah, I want to see the guy beat the other guy's ass."
Yeah, that should be perfect. In a perfect world, everybody should be like that.
Okay, well,
legitimately, I respect it. I like where you're coming from.
I'm fascinated. I'm very interested. As I said, I did a little judo. That was mainly because I was getting picked on at school. My dad said, "Here, go into judo," and so I learned how to fall and how to dive over like 5 kids and then roll and then get up again. And after that, I got kind of I didn't like it. I don't know. I didn't like it. And then went fencing. I was actually very good at fencing. I like that a lot.
martial arts for competition it's a strange pursuit, and professionally for competition it's an even stranger pursuit. Like originally the martial artist gets into martial arts because they want to better themselves. They want to be better at fighting. They want to have confidence. They want to be able to defend
like any
themselves.
competitive
Well, just
thing.
like you want guns to be able to defend yourself. There's a lot of people that want to learn how to physically defend themselves against another man.
Right.
I've always said
Gotcha.
this, like people say, like, why do you do it? Why do you work out? And what? I mean, it's first health and sanity first.
Oh,
but second,
very important.
I want to be the one who decides. If we're in an altercation and you decide you're some bully and you run up on me and you think you're just going to hit me, I want to be the one who decides who goes to the hospital, not you. I don't want your mercy.
I think I grew up so sheltered. I never was really ever threatened, really, in any way.
Every day, all around the world, it happens to somebody. And if you're lucky, you live your whole life by going into the right places and never get punched and never gets just stole on, where somebody just comes up to you and just starts smacking you around and you can't defend yourself. Because it fucking happens.
Yeah.
People do it to people, and people are awful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's most people are not. The vast majority are not. But you know, you do that shit to the wrong guy, like, and you didn't know better, and you did that to Boss Rutan, who's a former UFC heavyweight champion, who's one of the nicest guys ever. You might get confused and think, like, God, you don't know maybe who he is. Maybe you think you're going to bully him. Maybe you think you're going to fuck with him, make him uncomfortable. And next thing you know, you're waking up in the hospital.
I think, as I'm just reflecting here, I have a childhood memory, which may be where this started for me. I remember, and I entered Dutch school in 5th grade, speaking almost no Dutch. It was kind of a fucked up situation.
Whoa.
But say around 6th grade, and I was learning a little bit on the street and around, but I definitely was not really 100% fluent. And I can't remember what it was. It was in the gym, in the locker room, and some kid said something, and he was much smaller than I was, and I said something like, "Well, I can take care of you, little man." And I shouldn't have said it in the first place, but within like a nanosecond, and I'm like, he's put me down. Hit me on the nose.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, fuck me. I think that was the moment where I'm like, I should definitely be careful what I say and to who I say it, and I should watch my mouth. But maybe that skewed me from that moment.
Oh, for sure that's it.
Yeah.
For sure that's it.
And I was young, so I was like, how old are you? 12, something like that.
Oh, man, for sure.
Yeah.
That's going to leave a stain in your consciousness.
Oh, thank you for bringing this up.
No, listen,
this
man.
This is like therapy here. This is great.
Right. I mean, I think everybody needs to know why things bother them, why things like conflict bother them.
I don't know, as I'm old, you're 50?
52.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're same age.
Basically.
Do you have more of those moments now that you think, oh shit, that's what happened then, and that's why I'm having those?
What do you mean?
Where you're doing something and you think back to a moment like I just had here. Mm-hmm. Hey, that happened. Maybe that has influenced me now today, how I respond to certain situations. Yeah. I'm having more of those, and my wife is having that too.
That's smart.
I like it a lot. It's very interesting. I think, oh God, if I only known this 20 years ago.
Yeah, the origin of your behavior is an interesting thing, and the origin of your ideas, and where you are now. It's we're just the way we choose to behave about things is very strange. But anybody doing something like that to you when you're that age must have been an insanely traumatic experience. You wouldn't want to watch.
I didn't even tell my parents about it. I didn't tell my parents about it.
Yeah,
I was so ashamed.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
Yeah.
The solution to that, as strange as it sounds, is everybody know how to fight. And you get into way less fights. It sounds crazy.
It's right on.
I think it should be taught. I think it should be taught just for peace.
Whereas we seem to be going kind of the opposite direction with a general cultural education of young men, at least in the United States. I don't know if it's the same everywhere. I think it may be kind of propagating out there.
Some of the nicest people I know are martial arts people.
Oh, of course.
Because they have their ego in a good place in comparison to the general population. They've been humbled in training. Everybody gets humbled in training. It's so good for you. It really is. And it leaves you calm. Like, you get exercise in and you get some sort of a weird therapy too when you're a man. And just knowing that you aren't helpless. I've seen people that are helpless. It's very sad.
I think it comes from anything you learn. like learning how to fly. You're literally helpless if you're doing it wrong, and so a good instructor will help you get into situations that you have to get out of, and that same feeling arrives. I think that's a part of just the learning process.
Yeah.
I should probably try it.
You'd love it.
Yeah. What should I try? What would the
well?
Tina's laughing her ass off. Like, oh yeah.
We'll
here he goes.
talk after this, and I'll find a good spot where you could go and learn. And just you would get a kick out of just the learning, just like you get a kick out of learning the dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially like if you take something like Muay Thai. Muay Thai is really fun.
I did a documentary in Thailand.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it was
did you
really
see fights live?
Oh yeah.
It's wild, right?
I love the rhythm of the music and the tum-tum, it's all cute. Clued into how they do their shit. Yeah, I went up to the Burmese border, the Golden Triangle, stayed with the Hill tribe.
Whoa.
I've done a lot of crazy stuff, documentaries.
What is that how can someone watch that?
It's called Veronica Goes, and Veronica was the organization that I worked for in the Netherlands, the broadcast company.
Is it available online? Can someone find it?
You can probably find bits of it on YouTube. Veronica Goes Asia, and so it was Thailand. I mean, we did a number of things. We went into a brothel, where the girls have all the numbers, and we filmed there. I remember going to the long necks, where they have all the rings on, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to see the long necks 4.5 hours, and first you get from Chiang Mai to Chiang Rai up in the north, then a 4.5 hour, 5 hour bus drive, because we still had crews, right? So we're 10 people with producers and everything. And it's like, it's got to be around here. And there's like a big sign, almost in neon, long necks this way. I'm like, it's a fucking tourist trap. It really is. But then we went up to the Hill tribe. I'm sure that they've done it before, had crews over. But it's only women because all the men are in the opium hut, just completely stoned, smoking opium. The women run the whole deal. And they chew the betel nut root with a white paste in it, some kind of cocoa paste. And so, of course, for the documentary, I tried that. And their mouths are all red. Your teeth get completely red from the betel nut. Oh my God! And I was like, oh shit! And it's like an elevator. DMT can be a little bit of an elevator vibe. So it's like, poof, guys, I'm fucking hammered. Spit out all the rest of it, and it stayed with me for a good 45 minutes.
What's the sensation like?
A bit DMT, but very, very light version of it.
So it's a psychedelic.
I guess so. Just you felt this like, it felt kind of clear. Like, oh, this is kind of interesting, but all right, I'm pretty high. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of different drugs, so I'm not quite sure. But it was interesting, but I don't like the red teeth. It's kind of awkward socially.
Yeah, it's a turn off. People know you're what is it? What's the name of the thing? The
betel root nut.
Betel root nut.
I think, and cocoa paste. Or
calling someone
probably Coke and some red stuff.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows what it is?
Betel nut root. What's in that jazz, Jamie? Can we find out?
You got to see the women. Though. You got to see their red. What of me?
I think so. It's Veronica Goes America, Asia, and Caribbean. It's like an 11-minute clip on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
it's got you eating the beetle.
So then we also had to drink cobra blood. All this stuff. Yeah, it's kind of sad because first they piss the cobra off, and then they get the venom. And this is in the restaurant. They get the venom out of his sacs, and then they slit him open and bleed it into a glass of alcohol. And it's supposed to be very potent. Is that me?
No, that's not you, but that's
but that's this guy's got the teeth of someone who eats that stuff. He looks very happy.
Yeah. So
look at that guy, the far right. Oh.
Anyway,
look at that one.
Who the hell knows?
That's a lady. Look at her, tripping balls, happy as fuck.
Anyway, but we also shot a lot of Muay Thai.
Oh.
So we went to like these, the small like village fights. And just kind of this makeshift ring in the middle of the jungle, and all these people, and then the music, and just.
That would be something that would be good for you to learn.
Magical.
You would enjoy it, I think.
A lot of twisty and kicky stuff.
Yeah, twisty and kicky stuff that will complement, like you know how to dance and move your legs around.
Oh, I'm an excellent dancer.
I bet you are. I've heard you took lessons. It'd be a fun thing to learn.
It was actually my wedding video. We got married in May, and these days everyone has an iPhone, so there's just video everywhere. And I look at myself dancing. I'm like, oh my God. This has to stop. This video has to be eliminated. I am actually that guy. I'm so bad. And so I said, let's at least learn to dance some proper dances together, because then I can keep my posture up, my frame.
Right.
And then it just became, hey, this is kind of fun. We enjoy doing this with each other. Yeah, like some people go golfing. Maybe we'll go dancing.
Look, if you watch like old Fred Astaire movies, real dancing is very impressive.
Oh my God,
It's
I
weird
love
that
it. I
went away.
love
Like,
it. Yeah.
here's a strange thing. Like, okay, how did that get associated with homosexuality?
Broadway, and I love Broadway musicals.
Right.
And I think that's
Is
where
that
it became
because
associated.
a lot of gay guys are in Broadway and they did the musical.
Yeah,
but if you think about those Fred Astaire type days, like then
manly
it was
men
a
were doing
manly
that.
Man
Yeah, that was a really manly man thing.
Gentlemen who could strut and they danced around.
Remember what I told you?
Look at this.
And of course we always say Fred Astaire was great, but Ginger Rogers did everything backwards in heels. So
right, true, right.
Don't underestimate.
Well, actually, he's wearing heels too.
Yeah, dance heels. I think they're tap heels.
Yeah. Her heels are bullshit, though.
But
women,
you're right.
At least women back then
that
didn't
was
have
the days of the
stilettos yet.
crooners. Sinatra and the Rat Pack, and hey,
Must be such a
and
pain in
when
the
we
ass.
could call women broads and dames. Hey,
Some chicks still like that.
yeah.
Who was the asshole that made women wear those fucking shoes? Like who's the first person that figured out stilettos and high heels?
You know why?
can't even
You know
walk
why?
in?
Why they're worn? I mean, the initial
Yes.
idea is because of the angle and the pressure, your calves pump up, and that is deemed as more sexually attractive. In fact, I think it's pretty proven to work on men's attraction to women. Red lipstick is also part of the blush you have after orgasm, blush on your cheeks. All that stuff is sexual, and that's just exploited by a huge industry.
Yeah, for sure. It's just weird they talk the chicks into it. The heel thing, especially, like, imagine if men were all.
I love
like,
it.
If it went the other
don't
way.
you love it? Don't you think it looks
I
fantastic?
think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I do. But imagine if it went the other way. And if men were the ones who somehow or another by our culture were tricked into wearing stilettos, and the higher the heel, like the cooler you looked, the cuter you looked at the club.
We have entire swaths of men tricked into putting a noose around their neck every single morning with all kinds of weird shit.
At least that kind of looks cool.
It's a noose.
It is a noose.
It's a noose.
Listen, you're coming from someone who said I wouldn't wear one because I know if I got a hold of someone's tie, I could choke them to death with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially if it's like a sticky tie.
And if it's
one of them ones-
if it's a Windsor knot, that's
some
best.
dudes have leather ties. That shit's preposterous.
What kind of tie?
A leather tie? Like that's preposterous. You have a strap around. You
Yeah.
literally have a strap
A
around
murder
your
weapon.
neck.
The murder
You
weapon
have a
is right
belt
there.
around your neck.
And
But-
it's also uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it does look cool. Something
But-
about it makes it look like
There's
you're
all-
fucking serious.
Men get pushed into all kinds of things through
Business.
commercialism, but that's cool.
If you listen to someone who really cherishes a good suit talk about it, then you kind of get it.
They're in love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
Some things.
Some people are really into suits. They look at it like an art form.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's
Guy Ritchie, he had a whole thing.
Is he-
He was telling me about it. He came in with a beautiful suit on, and I was like, "Look at that fucking suit, man!" I told him about the tie thing, and he just like shook his head. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu too, though.
Okay.
He didn't. He's
So
not
he
worried.
also like makes no sense to do that.
Yeah, he's not. Well, it does make sense, but he's like, "You're not grabbing my tie."
Right. Nope, not gonna happen. Yeah.
He's actually a black belt from Renzo Gracie. That guy we were talking about earlier. Yeah, but Guy Ritchie loves suits. But the way he talks about it, like, you love suits too. You're like, I get it. Like the way someone talks about like a really well-made, handmade shoe that you got from some Italian cobbler, and you're like, I get it.
Right.
You're wearing like a piece of art. Like this is someone's art. Like yes, it is a boot, right?
Right.
But it is also, when you see that thing, it reminds you of Italy. It reminds you of a guy who actually made
it.
this. Yeah.
Sure.
Like there's something fucking cool about that.
Yeah.
That we're definitely getting away from in this, like someone who can make a watch. Like if someone makes a watch, like they're taking all these things and putting wheels in there,
Mm-hmm.
or you could just get like a fucking G-Shock.
I've had this
Somebody had to
watch
make this, too.
longer than my daughter's been alive, 30 years.
It's amazing.
And I've tried other watches, but it's a piece of me now.
Is it a Rolex?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I bought it back in the old MTV music business days. If you were a douchebag, then you had a diamond bezel around it. Ooh. And now this is actually very popular amongst rich women.
They're like a thick watch.
I go to
floss harder.
My former New York banker friend. I go to his dinner party, and there's like Oh man, there's like 3 women here wearing my watch. It's like
Still looks great.
I love it. It's such a classic, but the gold just kind of melts into me now, and it's a part of me, and it's a reminder of a different time.
Yeah.
When this shit mattered. Now I really don't care.
But it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a cool thing to have. It's got a lot of sentimentality, right?
Yeah.
If you go back to the origin of wristwatches, it's amazing how long they've been around.
And pocket watches.
These motherfuckers figured out how to do that shit hundreds of years ago. They figured out, when did they figure out a pocket watch? Like, what was the year? Because that was the first one. You get it on a chain, you pull it up, and I guess you had to wind it. But the fact that it worked, like they put a bunch of fucking gears together in this thing that you carried around everywhere, and it kept time.
When both my grandparents died, they died very close to each other.
16th century. Holy shit.
Is that a Hamilton?
1510.
I can't even see
in Nuremberg, Germany.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there you go.
It's a Peter Henlein, 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 and he created the first pocket watch in 1510.
According to Wikipedia,
the Italians were producing clocks small enough to be worn on the person by the earliest 16th century.
It'd be weird wearing like a necklace clock.
Like Flava Flav.
Yeah, I guess.
It'd be just like Flava Flav.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you believe that guy is 60 years old and he's still wearing the clock around his neck?
He wants you to know what time it is. He's very serious.
I remember those guys back in MTV, man. They'd be they were nuts. They were in the street jumping around. Flavor Flav just doing his thing with the clock. It's like, wow, man, that's still your gig.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about Mark Wahlberg the other day, and I used to tour with him. I had a syndicated radio show. And the stations would put it on if I came and did their summer jam or,
Summer jam.
B59 all summer long out of MTV's Adam Curry. And then they had Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Sisters with Voices. Sometimes UB40, it would be cool if they were there. So every weekend I'd go off to some bad top 40 radio station around the country. And that was what Greg Lawley put together, my buddy in Austin. He and I did that. And he was promoting all the artists. And so Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. It was, he was just, like you said, like a Calvin Klein underwear model. Cool guy, nice. He seemed to be calm. Didn't cause a ruckus on the road or anything. And we stayed at some pretty shitty places. And all of a sudden, he's like Mr. Hollywood and doing well at it. I like it.
And never stopped.
No.
Like, he started doing well in, like, when, the 80s?
Yeah,
Right?
it's like Will Smith. I mean, we
reinvented himself too.
We did Sega Genesis launch parties together.
Yeah, he's another one.
And he was doing Parents Just Don't Understand.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was great. Yeah, amazing.
That's him. How
go.
old was he then?
Looks like a kid.
16.
Wasn't he? Yeah, 18. Maybe it was 17.
Anyway, he's been around forever.
Yeah,
and still doing. I mean, the fact that he was able to reinvent himself too as a major movie star too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Good stories.
Yeah. When you remember the birth of the internet, when you remember first getting on in it and seeing the expansion, was there ever a moment, when was the moment, I should say, well, obviously now, today, we all realize it's out of control and it's just wild. It's a very strange thing that's taking over our lives. And then I want to talk about Neuralink too. I'm sure you know something about that, about Elon Musk's invention, Neuralink.
I know a little bit about it.
But when you saw it kind of getting away, like when was the moment where you were like, this is a very strange thing that's never happened to people before?
Well, I had the online part figured out because I ran a bulletin board. You might remember those. You could call in, maybe like 5 lines, and you go in and do your business and then get out.
What year was that?
Oh, this has got to be early 80s. No, maybe even late 70s.
So there's time for innovation there, right? There's big, long stretches where things don't get any better.
Well, the speeds got marginally better. People got more phone lines. The computers, were able to do more. Then there were also some other things happening. We had Windows 95 came into play. So now people were in a different world of computing. It used to be DOS, and people have, Word Perfect, and then all of a sudden, we have an interface on top of it. We didn't have that. So that started to teach people how to deal with the environment. So that was all there, but the internet itself would be 1987, and I logged in. To get on the internet, you had to log in to a dial-up account, launch a PPP session or slip, and then you had to launch the software on your computer, and then you could open a terminal and you could type things like telnet and then a domain name or even an IP address. You could connect to someone else's thing and kind of look around. It was just all text-based. But that for me was like, holy shit, you can connect from one to the next. I understood the hyperlinking. I understood how powerful that would be. And if I just had a little computer today on my desk, I had a Mac Plus with a gigantic external 20 megabyte SCSI hard drive, 20 megabytes. That's an empty Word doc.
Yeah.
You know, so that big thing like that. I just was like, oh my God, this is going to be it. So the second moment was the Andreessen with his HTTPD Mosaic browser, the web. And then the third moment was Carl Jacob. I think he's an investor, maybe even on the board at Facebook, but he worked at Sun Microsystems at the time. And he contacted me. He said, okay, man, I see what you're doing. I'm going to send you a computer. He sent me a Sun Voyager, which is like a portable, a luggable, with an LCD color screen. And this is, now 88, something like that. It was Unix, which was even crazier. And so he started to show me stuff, and he actually streamed a song from his workstation in San Francisco to my computer in Montclair, New Jersey, and it played. I had him on the phone here. I heard him start it, and then it came through and it played on my computer. I'd never seen this before or heard it. I was like, oh, fuck, broadcast. We can use this to broadcast. And since that moment, I think that's the mission I've been on. And look at, Mama, I have arrived. Here we are.
That's an amazing story, man. That's cool as fuck. I love hearing it from someone who was there from the very first steps. And
we used to have the Yellow Pages, the Internet Yellow Pages, which was a book. I still have it. It was published.
I remember that.
It was published.
I remember
You can look up everything in the Yellow Pages. That was a business.
That's hilarious.
That was a business.
Boy, the Yellow Pages got fucked, right?
Of course.
That shit fell apart.
Well, here's what happened with newspapers. Here's where the newspapers fucked up with the news when the internet came around. And I saw it, other people saw it, Craig Newmark saw it, and it's classifieds because they were all hoity-toity about their advertising model, but they were really making the money off the classified ads. Everybody knows it, everybody knew it, and that's what Craigslist, who tried to sell it to Tribune, was it Tribune or Hearst? Maybe it was Hearst, for just a couple $1 million. And it's like, no, we're not interested. We don't need it. Not invented here, whatever. And so he ate up their classified business overnight. And they were left holding the bag saying, well, we have cool news to advertise on. Well, no, I mean, we'll put some in there. But no, it was about the classifieds. That's where the money came from.
Wow.
Dvorak can tell the story. I'll ask him to do it on the show. He can tell the story about Craig Newmark and how they passed on it. And he does that very well.
The classified ads, do they even have them still
No.
in newspapers? They're gone?
Obits. Dead people is still a good business.
Yeah.
Of course they have some, but no, not really.
How often do you hold a physical newspaper in your hand and read it?
Whenever I'm at the airport, I always buy the newspapers.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be on my phone.
Right,
So let me just read the newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you use Android?
No.
iPhone?
I have a stripped down, I call it cloaked, no SIM card, VPN, Pi-hole. There's a lot of different parts on it that I do carry. It's iPhone 7 if I need to. But there's no other apps on it, no extra apps,
Wow.
just blanket. Yeah.
So you keep that in case of emergency?
Yeah, if I need to do something. Yeah.
If you need to do something.
Like I want to use the GPS.
Right.
And it also has an iCloud account that's not, it's not my main iCloud account. So I'm trying to make that Adam Curry and remove my other digital footprint.
I get it.
Try to move it over a little bit or something, at least confuse it a bit.
Wow. Whatever happened to, wasn't there a blockchain phone that was going to be released?
There's a number of interesting projects that are Linux-based. I'm trying to think of the one that's on the. A lot of it's crowdfunded. This company actually they make laptops that are complete. They all open source hardware. Shit, Jamie, can you find what's the name of that company? It's I feel stupid now. It's the weed.
It definitely is
anyway,
the weed.
So they crowdfund, but they've had very successful crowdfunding with Linux laptops, with open source hardware. Because that's really where you have to look for the problems. Because advertising, it's an insatiable thing that these companies are hooked on, and so the data, they have to keep getting data from us. That's the system. So when we start to cut it down, they move to the hardware, they move to different types of ways of getting data. And right now, I mean, you still can't hide from cell phone triangulation. There's all kinds of ways people can find you. That's really the biggest problem. If you can track someone's location, you can build their life. Add a credit card to that. Mimi, John C. Dvorak's wife, she does the company's taxes. They're a family business, and she I think she used to do some kind of auditing in the past, and she'll call up and say, "Oh, here's what I always see you do," and she'll tell me exactly what I do, where I go, when I like to eat out. She has all these patterns, and she just does it for fun.
Do you have GPS on your car?
Yeah, you can't get rid of it. I mean, there's no manufacturer after probably 2015 allows you to completely turn off tracking.
Well, you got an iPhone 7. Why don't you get like a 69 Corvette?
Well, but that's
something old.
69. That's the point. I mean, everything is built in now, and it's
I mean, I think that didn't really start until like the 2000s, right?
Well, they sold it to us in a great way with On Call. Like boom, I'm upside down. On Call, help is on the way.
What is this, Jamie?
I typed in.
Oh, Librem. There you go. Librem. Thank you. What did you type in?
Crowdfunded Linux laptop.
Fantastic.
And then
Librem.
Purism. Company. They make a bunch of products.
Yeah.
Do you mean
Purism.
laptop or phone?
They make both.
So they make the laptops, the phone. They're coming, but there's other projects as well.
It looks like a real phone.
But here's my problem. Here's my problem.
What?
It's still going to bleep and bloop.
Right.
I don't want it.
Right. It's going to find you.
I'll buy it. Of course, I want to have it because I have control over keeping it off and not using it when I'm on the road. But as a basic thing, if I'm at home and I just want to surf, I'm sitting down. Yeah, I'd rather use that. Absolutely. Apple. I kind of trust Apple to a degree. They're pretty good about not selling stuff they know. So their maps would be what I use. I trust that.
Yeah.
But only as far as I can throw them. I mean, I'm sure there's a million guys going, Curry, you have no idea how they try. Yeah, I do. So, but I just try to make less data.
What do you think happened with Google that they removed "Don't be evil"?
I think it was "Do no evil."
Do no evil. That's right.
People get that wrong.
I get everything wrong.
Which is evil. No, I mean it's one of those things that it's like a Mandela effect.
Okay, right. Like the Bernstein Bears.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like Mandela effect.
But for whatever reason, well,
So these guys who grew up, under the
"Don't be evil."
I thought it was "Don't do evil," but it was in the S1 document, and I remember reading it. And I could be wrong.
So it is either way.
It doesn't matter. Maybe they changed that halfway and went from "Don't be evil" to "Don't do evil" to "Don't be evil."
Don't be evil. Either
they adjusted it from "Do the right thing" or
no, it was.
Well, that's what it says now, I guess. Oh, sorry.
Oh, either way.
Anyway,
whatever the wording.
So these guys didn't grow up by accident. This is going to be my big Google conspiracy theory. I'll give it to you. It's one way of explaining it. Maybe I'm full of shit.
Okay. I love a good conspiracy.
They had a lot of help
in advance. I'm rooting on this conspiracy.
Their main boost was the acquisition of Keyhole, and this was you have to know the company In-Q-Tel, which is a venture capital company, which is the CIA's. It's not a secret. It's the CIA's. They even say our CIA venture capital company, and they invest in stuff. And they helped the Keyhole acquisition. And Keyhole is the mapping. That's really what Google Maps was. The most important thing you can have for a person's identity is where they are. These guys kind of grew up young under oppression of Russia. That's where they both come from. And they kind of came into the system. If you look at the universities and the people involved and how they were almost given some kind of prizes for things they did. I mean, there's an alternative story to the general narrative of how Google came to be. So I think there was a lot of intelligence people involved in this, involved in setting it up. And the psychology of Larry and Sergey, some psychologists have analyzed, and I've listened to a lot of different people, is that they kind of become what their oppressor was to them.
Ooh.
And it's not really, I don't think they're bad guys, but this is psychosis that happens if you grow up in some kind of stressed out situation. You know, people who have been abused often abuse others.
Right.
And so I think that's what's going on. The problem is, I love all the technology. I love what all these companies and everybody's doing. The business model is just fucking humanity. It is. It's fucking us.
By giving away data and by influencing people
not
with
letting
the
us
use of that data.
Not letting us share in the revenue of the data.
Right.
Or having some control over it. And
Do you
that's
think
really
that
what it
there
is.
should be some sort of legislation that recognizes what data is, and that they look at it in terms of like it's a commodity, and saying like selling and buying and selling? And
Well, I think
using
there is some of that.
But is there some that really evenly balances it, or looks at it for what it really is? Like,
well, what is data? I mean, what is money? Money is data. Money is
right.
not
What
is not
what
money
are you
anymore.
providing?
It's all data.
You're providing a service.
It's all data. It's all data.
Yeah, it is all data.
You have to have. It has to be a trust relationship, and if their business model is as it is now, if they don't change it, no legislation will stop them from getting around the problem.
Where now it's you get free shit and we get your data. You get a free browser.
Here's the interesting
we
thing.
get your data.
Here's the interesting thing. The internet is, although no longer quite the same way, with upstream and downstream being equal due to the cable companies and how they've implemented your personal connection. We can still do our own servers. It doesn't all have to be on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. There's I was talking earlier about Mastodon. NoAgendaSocial.com is our own social network. It's with open source software without algorithms, and we federate with all these other servers, much the way the World Wide Web grew up. And there's this mechanism for communicating with each other. And so it's kind of Twitter meets email, only it looks like Twitter, but you control a lot more of how it works. And your community can be a small little community, and you can have no one come in. You can block people or just say, I only want these cool people to also connect, or that server to connect. It's all good. So you have all these kind of almost like an Ancestry.com tree that branches to all these different places called the Federation. If we build upon those kinds of things and don't let other companies or companies at all, there's no reason for them to get involved. It's very cheap. With believe it or not, a Linux laptop, you can get started. Any kid can learn how to do it. They should be teaching it at school, how to set up a server, how to get around some of the hurdles, understand how an email server works. And we will not need these companies. We can have all the joy and a lot of the downside, but there won't be a Twitter police. There'll be only your own little community. Say, hey, we don't like this guy. We're just going to block you. Or your whole community. Or we would love to have you guys with us, and it can happen to us similarly. And that's how you build these networks, and eventually you connect to each other on the back end somehow anyway.
How often do you think, how long do you think it's going to be before we're implementing augmented reality into our life in that way, in like a social media context? Because you kind of got augmented reality already with your ears.
Yeah, so it would be unfair of me to say that it's augmented in that it's enhancing, but it's not. I have enhanced it in ways that are particular to me, but it's not some algorithm really determining things that I should hear. I am in total control of how that works and how it sounds. I don't see the case for augmented reality. I just don't see it. I mean,
when you think about what Apple's trying to do with their glasses.
Well, I think it's trying to get people from doing this to doing this.
Yes, it probably is.
That's all that it is. That's all that it is.
But it's also probably adding to the experience, right? If you can have like little animated fairies everywhere you go that you see through your Apple glasses, everything else looks the same. Do you ever go to the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland?
Yes.
And you look, there's a ghost sitting right next to you.
If I see you with one of those glasses on, I'm going to go learn some fucking Muay Thai. I'm going to kick you on your fucking head. Boom, like Dalsum.
But what if it makes life so much crisper and brighter? You put these glasses on, and it syncs up to the little chip that you have in the middle of your brain. It gives you this pleasure feeling, and all of a sudden, everywhere's flowers, man. You walk through flowers.
I'm always looking for the conditioning, that's getting us ready for these moments. And so I think a beautiful moment is this coronavirus, where the testing is someone holding a gun-like sensor to your head. Whoa. I mean, that's preparing people for the barcode or the chip. It's like, oh yeah, click. Let me just like a pet. Like,
how
hey,
are they testing? Do you have to go to a hospital?
Yeah, the test it takes a couple of days. I think they have a test that'll go down to a couple hours, but they swab deep in your throat or deep in your nose. Like, it sounds kind of annoying.
This whole thing is very, very spooky.
Well,
it seems to happen every 100 years.
Look, Joe.
We're conditioned?
We're conditioned through horror movies for this. I mean, my favorite part of this script as it unravels was the Pope sneezing and coughing. Like, oh my God, the Pope. He's in Italy. He has coronavirus.
World War Z.
And like, if the Pope dies, this will freak out the world. And so we talked about it on the show. We're waiting like, oh my God. And today they announced the Pope is fine. He's been tested. He does not have coronavirus. So thank God. I think this is, sadly, we're reacting in all the wrong ways. This is completely illogical what's going on. It's very illogical. And it's the death rate and the amount of people who are infected that is misunderstood. And so people are just throwing numbers everywhere. And meanwhile, I mean, even the New England Journal of Medicine, which includes Dr. Fauci, who's on the team and who's been around in this business for a long time through the Obama administration, Bush administration. Yeah, he's been around. Said, look, this is probably going to be no worse than a severe seasonal flu. Now we know that seasonal flus can kill quite a lot of people. You know, it could be 20, 30,000. So in those aspects, it's kind of the same. But it's being presented in a sensationalistic way that we're completely programmed to respond to. Remember, we already have enlarged amygdalas because of all the triggering and wokeness going on. So give us a little, it's true, Joe, give us a little bit of fear with this thing that we're conditioned through all kinds of horror movies. And Netflix just had the pandemic movie on just a couple months ago. So we're primed. We're primed to be suckered into something. And part of it may be the Patriot Act, which is whatever's going on with the pandemic, there's always something going on in the background.
Do you think whenever there's something going on with the pandemic, then they use it as an opportunity to sneak stuff in the background?
Yeah, so I'm looking for the pandemic the spending bill.
Someone was trying to talk to me about that with natural disasters or any kind of
it always
attack,
happens.
And that there's automatically an understanding that people are willing to do things they wouldn't normally be willing to do. So this is when you move in with new legislation.
It's the amendment. So you have a bill, and the bill will be financing for coronavirus, whatever that means. The president wanted $2.5 million, $2 million. I think like $1.5 million was already kind of there.
And you stuff a bunch of shit in that bill.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And it's like a piece of the Patriot Act may actually get passed in that because it's kind of like you cannot vote against this shit. Right. Because how can you vote against Pandemic Saver?
How can you vote against Patriot? The Patriot Act?
Right. Well, there are a lot of people in Congress right now trying to break the Patriot Act apart because this is the spying bill where the government can just spy on you, and we've been talking about some of that. It's not cool.
Yeah, this all really was implemented right after the September 11th attacks.
It was already written.
Yeah,
it was good to go.
Binney from the CIA,
yeah.
Guy said, look, they were ready to spy on people long before then. They
totally
were setting
ready.
it up.
Mm-hmm. They,
those motherfuckers.
The crazy they.
Adam, I hate to end this, but it's 3:10.
Oh, shit.
We've literally done this for 3 hours.
It feels so good.
It was awesome, man. It was better than I expected. I expected it to be awesome, and it was even more awesome. I really enjoyed it. We got to do it more often.
I'd love to, and thank you so much
for
having me on.
Thanks for fucking creating this thing, man. You know, you were a big part of it. You know, your ideas of broadcasting, for sure, are part of the seeds that led to to me doing this. So thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, but thank you, and thank everyone who really is around your show and all the comedians. I can die a happy man, pretty much. Not planning yet. But.
Stay alive, man. We love you. All right,
thanks.
Bye, everybody.
That was awesome, man. Wow, that was a long chat.